Vice Mayor, you on?
Yes, I'm here, but I'm trying to watch it on YouTube. So I wanted to. I got the link. I'm there on YouTube, but I'm not seeing anything yet.
All right, I can't hear you very well just because it's loud in here, but I'm going to go back and push the feed through so you should be able to see it soon, okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, have a good meeting.
Thank you.
You're only allowed 2 carry-on items. Did they fit in the box on the way in? I don't think they're going to slide under your seat. You're in an exit row, so you just have to be cautious. I need a nod of the head. You accept the responsibility of being in an exit row.
It's good to see.
Face.
Good evening and welcome to the council chambers and the regular meeting of the Chandler City Council. Tonight, there's quite a few moving items that are moving pieces as part of our agenda. There is consent, there is a public hearing, there is voting on that, there is part of our budget. And then there are three other items. Many of you have intended to speak on one and or both of them. And we will give everyone the opportunity, and I'll address that once we get a little closer. So with this, I'd like to call our meeting to order. And Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Hartke,
Present.
Vice Mayor Ellis,
Present.
Councilmember Encinas,
Here.
Councilmember Poston,
Here.
Councilmember Orlando,
Here.
Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Our invocation will be delivered by Rabbi Mendy Deutsch from Chabad of the East Valley, and our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Encinas.
I'd like to begin by putting some charity into a charity box. We don't just talk about doing good things, we do something positive. God of heaven, Master of the world, graciously bless these distinguished individuals, chosen by many who have entrusted them with the responsibility of legislating for a well-being of their constituents and families. While we may be living in turbulent times, one thing is a constant, and that is the Almighty God who resides within each and every one of us and gives us the strength we need to remember who we are and what we are made out of. We must not be discouraged by the darkness around us. Instead, we should bring more light into the world through acts of kindness and goodness. Many have heard about what happened last night in Washington, D.C. The way to overcome Jew hatred and bigotry is by instilling in our youth a deep respect for others. We do this by living by a higher moral code built on the foundation of the 7 universal laws given to all mankind, teaching them to love and honor every human being. For each of us is created by the image of God. We must also help them understand their God-given purpose and their power to make the world a more beautiful and kind place for all. Through this, we guarantee to be able to live in peace. Let there be no ambiguity. What took place last night was a vile act of cowardness and terror. At a time of rising hate, those who believe in justice and human dignity must be clear and courageous in naming and confronting the hate in all its forms. We call on leaders across every sector, government, civil society, and faith communities to reject the normalization of anti-Semitism and any kind of hate, and to build a society rooted in mutual respect, safety, and dignity for all. The heroism of our leaders, dedicated to fostering a peaceful and harmonious world, is commendable. We implore God to grant each and every one of you, the City Council, and the leaders of our community, give them strength and moral courage to enhance our world daily. Bestow upon them wisdom, justice, grace, and empathy, enabling them to bring honor to your name and blessing to mankind. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi, for your words. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
One
under
mission,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
and
with liberty and
with
justice
liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Councilmember Encinas. Next on our agenda tonight is our consent agenda. And before we vote on this, we always invite, if there are people who are being voted on for boards and commissions, to stand and be recognized. Do we have anyone here from who's being voted on in the Mayor's Youth Commission? If so, please stand. Can you shout out your name to us? My name is Hannah Mello.
All right.
My name is Gary Benet. All right. Well, thank you both for coming. We appreciate your desire for civic action, and we're blessed that you guys are here. So thank you. Council, next is, I've got no speaker cards on consent agenda. Unless someone would like to move a consent agenda to action, I believe a motion would be appropriate.
Mayor,
Councilmember
I
Orlando.
move the proposed motion to move the approved consent agenda of May 22nd, 2025, regular meeting items 1 through 14.
Second.
So we have a motion
Second,
by Councilmember Orlando, a second by Councilmember Harris. All right,
Mayor.
Council, please vote.
Mayor,
Councilmember Encinas,
I
thank
just
you.
need to, for the record, I want to do a recusal on administrative item agreement number CA 2502.201 for myself. That item.
Okay. Thank you so much. And that's under the bottom on the administrative part? Okay. For those in the audience, there is a section where if the amount of money is less than a certain amount, then it's kind of lumped under that bottom section there. So that's what Councilmember Encinas is referring to. Council, please vote.
Vice Mayor Ellis,
yes.
motion carries unanimously.
With the one no
With,
voted.
as noted, with the item noted by Councilmember Encinas.
Very good. Thank you. Next on our agenda is a public hearing and action item. And council, there is the presentation of a hearing, and after we close out of that, we then will vote on it this is item 15, and then item 16, we will actually vote on resolution 5899. So with that, I'd like to open our public hearing and invite a staff presentation. I'd like to invite Lauren Cole, Rebecca, our DCCP development manager as well. Please proceed.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm here to present the fiscal year 25-26 EMSD Enhanced Municipal Services District Annual Assessment. The EMSD was created in 2005 and it's in its 20th year. The district covers 61.4 acres and over 1 million square footage of commercial space. An Enhanced Municipal Services District is formed to provide services up and beyond typical public services elsewhere within the city. Such services include safety, beautification, marketing and promotion, and professional management and communications. These services are provided by the Downtown Chandler Community Partnership, the DCCP, through an annual contract with the city. To further expand upon the EMSD process, the assessment was authorized by the property owners in the district, with 100% of the assessment proceeds being paid to the district. City Council is a governing body who officially enables the district. The district must be renewed each year. The annual steps are as follows. Step 1, set the rate by the City Council. This is the same assessment formula that has been used for the past 20 years. This year, the DCCP requested a 5% increase for both private and public property that is allowed by the EMSD bylaws. Step 2, on March 27th, Council approved the tentative assessment and set the hearing date for tonight. Since then, staff has published the notice of hearing as required by ASRS for 5 consecutive days before the hearing. DCCP staff has mailed all notices to all property owners in the district of their right to file an objection. No objections have been received at this point. Tonight is the public hearing and resolution of approval and the approval of the contract with the DCCP to administer these funds through the EMSD. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions before I pass this on to Rebecca, who will present on the DCCP.
Council, any questions for Lauren? Seeing none, proceed.
All right.
Hello, Rebecca.
Thank you, Lauren. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your time and consideration. On behalf of the DCCP Board of Directors and our organization, I'll be providing an overview of some of the accomplishments that we've reached in this fiscal year. But first, I'd like to share our mission statement. The Downtown Chandler Community Partnership is a 501c6 not-for-profit corporation whose mission is to mobilize leadership and resources to advance the development of downtown Chandler as a regional destination for shopping, dining, living, culture, and the arts. Next, I'd like to highlight our board of directors. These individuals are leaders in the community who invest and volunteer for the betterment of the downtown Chandler community. And I love to include our hardworking team. From your left is Natalie, Maddie, myself, and Jess. As Lauren mentioned, the services that we provide are over and above standard city services, but I would like to just include a few here. Our charter includes providing advocacy for our businesses, management, events, marketing, placemaking, and clean team services as well. Our board this year has completed an updated draft strategic plan, which we've discussed previously, and we hope to finalize over the summer. Internal and external communications have been a focus this year, and how we can refine and the best ways to serve our businesses. We've hosted more than 20 meetings. We've also implemented a pilot volunteer program where volunteers directly impact small business owners in downtown, such as providing replacing light fixtures, interior paint, and minor drywall repairs, all free of charge. In continuing with our marketing and communication, we partnered with various marketing teams and local influencers who not only raved about our downtown as a whole, but went into various businesses to highlight them. Some campaigns included retail-only shops, stay-and-play campaigns, and weekend wedding experiences. Just wanted to share a few of our marketing wins. We had over 141,000 views on our social media platforms and just some of these small campaigns that we performed. One live TV segment for Prancer's Pajama Party where they were live on site, and then we had 3 live TV segments that were at the studio, and it highlighted 6 different businesses within downtown. We hosted 19 events, which brought more than 300 local vendors. This does not include farmers market vendors. And our events brought more than 43,000 attendees and generated more than $100,000 in revenue for the DCCP. As you can see, we provided a diverse event schedule and tried our best to offer as many free opportunities as we could for residents and visitors to enjoy. All of these events are made possible through our event partners. I just wanted to share a few fun photos. This year, we also started hosting micro events, which provide an opportunity for community building without the large crowds. We wanted to provide reasons for people to keep coming back to downtown. Free micro events include running club, book club, and sunset yoga. We'd like to thank Councilmember Encinas for supporting and joining our running club. In addition, we're happy to report, after much resident and council feedback, that we have brought the farmers market management back in-house. Natalie has been successful in growing the market, and we see promising numbers so far. The market is on track to have more than 40,000 visitors annually. We took over management in January, and the vendor gross sales so far are $281,000, all of this back into local economy. As we look for safety and beautification improvements, the DCCP partnered with the City of Chandler to install alleyway lighting in 2 alleyways, and a third one is pending approval. We worked with landowners to install additional turf and sprinklers to improve the sidewalk along Boston Street. We also installed various placemaking engagements, such as expanding our holiday decorations by 50%, installing the umbrellas at Dr. A.J. Chandler Park for spring, and hay bales in the fall season for photo opportunities. In this fiscal year, we worked with Peter Bugg and the Vision Gallery through the Arts Commission to install 3 additional utility wrapped, which were created by local artists. This gives us 5 to date, and we're happy to report that the Arts Commission also joined us in adding additional art boxes in the downtown. And that is all I have for now. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there questions or comments? Councilmember Orlando.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, great job down there. It's a good partnership between the city and the private business down there. And I'm glad to see that there's growth in different venues we're doing. So that's perfect. The only question I have is, when the assessment is made, do the landlords, or it may be a combination, do the landlords actually pick that up, or they push it towards the lessees?
That's a great question. Thank you, Councilmember Orlando. Mayor and Council, it really is up to the landowner to determine who picks up the additional expenses. But it is a conversation that we have with our stakeholders, that what we'd like to do with the dollars, and having some assessment increases. And so far, we've had support throughout the community.
Good. So okay, that's perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Additional questions or comments? Councilmember Poston.
I appreciate everything you're doing down there. I love the farmers market. I love the art walk. You've done a great job with that. I do just want to ask, I really like that you've put an added emphasis on helping those small business owners, because sort of as Councilmember Orlando had mentioned, some of those fees do get passed on. I am hearing that they're feeling the effects of the economy right now. So I would just encourage you to have as much action towards the actual business owners as opposed to just the property owners as well. So I know we had a brief discussion about this before, but I do want to encourage you to continue to do that.
Thank you, Councilmember Poston, Council, Mayor. We take your feedback with much weight, right? It's important to us. And our focus is always the business owners in addition to the landowners. And we hear you. We also had some discussions about what that looks like with the current economy, or the uncertainty of it. And so we are having some discussions as to how we can continue to strengthen the businesses, the small guys, right? The small businesses that we have in downtown. Thank you.
Exactly, because that's what makes downtown special, is that we have so many independent business owners, but it's a little more of a struggle when things are a little bit uncertain, like you said. So thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
100%. Thank you.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I really would like to thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to do the address with the downtown Mississippi when you were traveling. I want to tell them thank you for having me and congratulations on their 20 years of working downtown. And it would have never been what it is right now if a group of business people and also the CCP put all their hands together to make downtown a destination place. I had an opportunity to speak to many of the business owners that are in downtown currently. They were in the room. They are very appreciative of all the work that the city manager and everybody, including all of us, are doing there to support the CCP. So again, thank you, Ms. Rebecca, for having me. It was a blast standing there and doing the address with you all. Thank you. Continue the good work.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Vice Mayor. Thank you so much. Everybody was really impressed with your address. They loved having you. We missed Mayor, of course. Thank you guys so much again for your support. We appreciate it.
And I'll close just by saying, unless others want to close my close, I think our downtown has really gotten to be a strong place that we hear great things about people feeling safe, about how clean it is, how warm the folks are. And of all the places that I like to hang out, it's our downtown, and for the many reasons. And we continue to look forward to developing this to be a continued world-class amenity that not just serves Chandler, the region, but really invites people from around the world. So thank you for your work in keeping all of those things a reality in our downtown.
Mayor, Council, thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate it. And I will definitely share with our board and our stakeholders. Thank you very much.
All right. After council discussion, is there any questions or comments from the audience related to the public hearing? Seeing none, I'd like to close our public hearing. Thank you. Item number 16 is approving what we just heard, the annual assessment for the City of Chandler's Downtown Chandler Enhanced Municipal Services District. Council, how would you like to proceed?
Mayor.
Councilor Orlando.
Thank you. Like to move to approve resolution number 5899, approving the fiscal year 2025-2026 annual assessment for the City of Chandler, Arizona, Downtown Chandler Enhanced Municipal Services District.
So we have a
I'd like
motion.
to second that, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Orlando, a second by Vice Mayor. Any recusals? Seeing none, Council, please vote.
Vice Mayor Ellis?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. Item number 17, resolution number 5905, which is adopting the FY 25-26 tentative budget and 26 through 35 tentative capital improvement program, and giving notice and dates and times for hearing taxpayers for final adoption of the budget and setting tax levies and tax rates. Matt Dunbar is going to give us a presentation.
All right, Mayor and Council, I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to talk about the budget with you again. I know it seems like you've seen my face a lot lately, but we're getting close to the end, so you'll get a break here pretty soon. I did have a joke for you about a broken clock, but I didn't think it was the right time. So our statutory budget process is the same as it always is. Arizona Revised Statute dictates what we do. We do provide or adopt a tentative budget, which is before you tonight, to set forth the different amounts that we're going to be required to meet the political subdivision's expenses for the fiscal year. After tentative adoption, we have a public hearing on that budget as well as on the tax levy, which is set for June 12th. And then we hold a special meeting directly following that, just similar to what we've just seen, directly following that public hearing. And then the final adoption of the tax levy is set for June 26th. Our total budget for fiscal year 25-26 is just about $1.629 billion, a slight decrease from last year's budget. Our theme this year is strength in numbers, and so we see that not only with the numbers in our budget and adhering to our fiscal policies, but also in the number of individuals and partnerships that we have throughout the community that really make Chandler a special place. The total general fund of that $1.629 billion is about $615 million. Our proposed budget does adhere to those financial policies that you have set in place. We do use the strategic framework to guide our decisions. It provides cost-effective quality services, maintains our long-term financial sustainability, And we did include resident feedback through our engagement processes through our budget kickoff, the resident survey, 3 budget workshops, our all-day budget brief, and then the events that we have scheduled over the next couple of weeks for final and tentative adoption. We were able to incorporate a lot of the budget drivers into this fiscal year, including some revenue changes, both increases and decreases for various classifications of revenues, expenditure increases for the deal with inflation, public safety pension obligations, and inflating costs across the city. We budgeted for grant changes that we've been monitoring from the federal level. Although those keep changing, we'll keep you updated as we go throughout the next few weeks and months. And then we've utilized some ongoing savings found some ongoing savings with one-time dollars, again, making sure that our public safety pension is completely funded. A couple of highlights from the operating budget. We're able to maintain the lowest privilege tax rate in Arizona, again, maintaining that 1.5% rate. And then we're able to reduce the primary property tax rate through the direction of mayor and council. That's the 10th consecutive year that we've been able to reduce the property tax rate. We're also able to maintain that fully funded status of our PSPRS obligation, adds funding for labor association commitments and general employee merit markets, and maintains our strong reserves. If you missed it at the all day, here's just a recap of where the money comes from and where the money goes for our total budget. Where the money comes from, everything from fund balance to grants to state shared revenues to local TPT or transaction privilege tax, our property taxes and other charges for services. And then where the money goes is broken out into categories for departmental operating, major capital. We have debt service, contingencies and reserves, and capital carry forward, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Just to keep in mind from an overall cost to our residents for providing all of the services that the city does, the city of Tempe does a great job. They do a study that shows the different cost estimates per resident for the services that we provide. This includes water, wastewater, solid waste, property taxes paid, and an estimate of transaction privilege or sales taxes paid. The Valley average is an average resident will pay $2,513 to their municipality. City of Chandler is about 75% of that, so just over $1,800 per resident. So we fare very well as far as what we're able to provide to our residents for a low cost. And we anticipate that when they update that this next July, we'll be in an even better position. From our capital improvement program, the highlights for our 10-year CIP were about $2.6 billion, about $130 million increase from last year's 10-year CIP. And it was updated to reflect not only additional utility projects and project cost estimates, but also additional projects that were filtered into the final year, year 10, which is new this year. Again, we have an increased focus on aging infrastructure, and it does include projects utilizing potential new bond authorization in years 3 through 10. So as we go out to the voters in November asking for additional bond authorization, those projects are built into our capital planning. Although we only appropriate the first year of our capital plan, so this is the total appropriation for the new year, $845.7 million will be our CIP appropriation, split between 2 major categories: capital carry forward, which are projects that have already begun but not yet completed, that we need to make sure that we reappropriate for in the new year under state law. We have to do that so we can continue those projects. And then new funding of about $278 million. Our key budget dates, a majority of those are completed, check marked. Tonight we're doing our tentative budget adoption, budget public hearing, and final adoption is scheduled for June 12th, and then the adoption of the tax levies on June 26th. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Council, questions? Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you. Dawn, your team continues to do a great job. I mean, seeing our taxes being lower for the 10th year in a row is a big savings to our community.
Tax rate.
Tax rate. Yes, tax rate for the 10th year in a row. And is proud to be a part of that process, you know, and your team worked very tirelessly to work through that process to put together a very fiscally sound budget. And it takes many, many months for those that have been a part of the budget process from the beginning to the end. It takes multiple months before we get here. And I think we'll be kicking it off again in October of this year to carry it over all the way into the wee hours of the month of June. So I'm very proud of this budget. It's very sound, strong, fiscally sound budget, and I'm very happy that we are being able to do this for many months and to be here. I'm just like, yes. So thank you so much, Mr. Dunbar. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Additional comments? Councilmember Orlando.
Yeah. Matt, can you remind us when the PSPRS payment is due and when do we adjust that?
Yeah, so through the mayor, Councilmember Orlando, it's not, doesn't have a due date for the additional payment that we make. We tend to make it at the beginning of the year, but this year we're going to delay that slightly. We want to get the new actuarial report, see where we're at, make sure we need the full, we have budgeted $25 million increase for that payment. If we need the full amount, we'll be able to pay it as soon as we get the actuarial report. If it's less than that, we'll pay just the amount that's needed. So it'll probably be November, December timeframe.
Oh, okay, much later.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Matt, can you go back to that one slide where it compared Chandler to the others concerning overall tax bill?
Absolutely. Oop, there we go.
Great. So this is with any increases that we've projected, but we are talking about a review and adding wastewater, water, some increases that will take effect next March is what I'm currently understanding, right? So it'll give our businesses opportunity to be able to make their budgets accordingly. So even with that, we're going to be well under 200,000. And as you stated, this does not take into effect that all of these agencies, we know Gilbert has some significant increases planned that's not included in this and others. Is that pretty much true of everyone?
Absolutely, Mayor, you're correct. So this just reflects as of last July 2024 and hasn't been updated with ours. So we know our utility rates will likely increase, but we've seen increases in other jurisdictions as well, all other jurisdictions, some of them significant, as you mentioned, Gilbert. The other thing that isn't in this yet is Gilbert did raise their transaction privilege tax from 1.5% to 2%. So that'll be reflected next year. So a lot of changes, those shifts we'll see in next year's Tempe report. But to your point, the city of Chandler will maintain that very equitable status with our residents. So.
And when you say that, I mean, in our case, this won't raise until we raise rates. So we've already folded everything else in there. So it continues to just state and restate in the enviable position of long-term planning in our community that allows us to be able to bring the best affordability. So thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Matt. There's no speaker cards related to item number 17. Council, is there a motion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Harris.
I gotta see just 1 second. My computer's pulling up. All right, there we go. Mayor, I would like to make a motion for item number 17 to approve the resolution 5905 adopting the FY 2025-2026 tentative budget and the 2026 to 2035 tentative CIP and giving notice of the dates and times for the hearing taxpayers for final adoption of the budget and for the setting levies and the tax rates.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Harris, second by Councilmember Poston. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none.
Vice Mayor Ellis?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Man, we're just screaming through this agenda. You think the second half will be as fast as the first half? Oh, for sure. Okay. I love your attitude. Okay. And council, what we'll do is what we have been doing. If there's a staff presentation or questions, as this next one has been brought by Councilmember Harris, we'll entertain questions and discussion here. There are no speaker cards for item number 18 either at this point. So item number 18, creating performance evaluations and criteria policy for direct hires. Since I'm not sure if there's staff presentation, since this was your item. So Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm bringing this forward because, as you know, accountability is very important. Transparency is important as well. And when we give out merit-based performance raises, we need to make sure that there's an evaluation tool to evaluate our direct hires. And this is a part of what everyone everyone does. We all get evaluated. And so I wanted to bring this forward to make sure that we can bring this forward so staff can go and put together an evaluation so that way our direct hires have the ability to be evaluated. They know what they're being evaluated about. We know how we're going to be evaluating, and it allows it to be aligned with their contracts.
So again, if I'm correct, what this does is basically commission staff to put something together, and then we will vote on that. That's just not arbitrary or automatic.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct, Mayor.
And I have a question for Ton, our acting legal tonight. I know that when this has been brought up in the past, we've been advised by legal that these evaluations are potentially public, these public documents are public documents rather than protected by executive privilege. I think Kelly has mentioned that several times. So, Tone, what's your understanding of this?
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's correct. The record of the evaluation would be a public record. Is that your question?
So the record meaning that it's happened, or the material on the actual evaluations?
The material on the actual evaluations.
Okay. So there's nothing that we can do that would say that if we proceed with this, that this would be just a private communication between council and the individual staffers if there was a public records request?
Mayor, on the record of the evaluation, that would be a public record. You could discuss an employee's performance in an executive session.
I just want to make sure that we're talking the same thing. So I'm hearing a little different language, and I just want to make sure I understand. So if I evaluate City Attorney Schwab, are the materials, are the statements, are whatever I would say about her that I might be interested in communicating privately? Are you saying that is accessible in a public records request? Or your language is just a little different? I just want to make sure I understand.
Sure, Mayor, I understand. Yes, that would be a public record. However, if in your comments you were to summarize something that had been legal advice and it was privileged attorney-client legal advice on behalf of from the city attorney for the city of Chandler, that would have to be redacted.
Okay, so if I gave the city attorney either a 12 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10 for a particular merit, that is accessible as public record, is what
Mayor,
you're saying?
yes, that is what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Council, additional
Mayor?
questions? Vice Mayor, then Councilmember Poston.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I have a question also concerning the other employees that we don't directly oversee, the direct hires. When we do their merit and also we do sit down and do their evaluation, does that go into their file as a public knowledge, or is it also private? Only them can see it. Other people cannot request those kinds of things.
I think what she asked is let's say an employee of perhaps you, that if you're given an evaluation, is that also public knowledge, or how does that work as opposed to the 4 appointees from council?
Mayor, evaluations of employees of the city are public records.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Additional questions or comments from council?
Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Poston, you're
Yeah,
already
thanks.
on record. My apologies.
Thank you. Mine was my comment was similar to the Vice Mayor's question, and it was just I have been a proponent of transparency the entire time I've served on council and when I was a city employee. And my opinion is that it's pretty much standard for city staff's records to be public. And I think we should be holding our executive staff to a higher standard, not a lower one. These are our most well-compensated employees with the most responsibility. So I agree with Councilmember Harris's idea of making this a written record. And we can be discreet, and we've been assured that if there are items that do need to be redacted, that our city attorney's office can do that. So that gives us a little extra comfort level, I think, but I'm in favor of this.
Okay, over here. Okay. Yeah, I guess my concern is if I'm having an interesting day and if I'm not happy at the moment of an action of a public employee and I write something that I later we talk these out and we have ongoing relationships and ongoing conversations and course adjustments, but I guess I'm concerned that if I would write something and later get it resolved, but suddenly there's this impending thing on somebody's record that might affect their future. And honestly, that would concern me. So I'm just wrestling a little bit with this concept. I do realize we're just approving the process, and then that's going to come back to us, and maybe we could shape it in such a way that would alleviate my concerns that I'm trying to articulate. But so, Councilmember Martinez.
Kind of just tag on to your concern there. I was going to ask Councilmember Harris, is your proposal to do this at a certain time of year, or is it when their contracts may be up for evaluation at that time, or is it yearly, or depending on what the contract falls?
Yeah, again, this item only simply gives the staff the direction to go and figure out the concept and to bring it back to us so we can make determinations of how we want to move forward. This only just allows us to put forth an opportunity that we can actually review what our staff is doing. Our top staff is, to your point, Mary, they're paid heavily. I think it's approximately $1 million that we pay our top staff between the four. And I think it's very important that we look at that and we allow the taxpayers to be able to see that. And we can find a way to do it. Phoenix has been doing it. There's examples out there. Phoenix has been doing it for quite a long time. Tempe has been doing it for quite a long time. Scottsdale, other cities, it's a common practice. I mean, I sit on boards right now, government boards, where I'm the chair of, and that CEO is evaluated and wish the same process. So we can find a way to do it in a meaningful way. And that's why we want to send it back to the staff, and they'll put together something that will be meaningful and that will allow that to happen. But I do believe that our direct hires definitely should be evaluated as we would anyone else in the organization. That's just being transparent, holding accountability, and providing merit-based performance raises.
Thank you for that clarification. I feel like we'll get into all those parameters if we decide to do something like this. So maybe that's something we can address, Mayor, once we're in there, whether it's timing or the structure of that evaluation.
Yeah, and I think his direct question was, do you see this upon, like right now they're on a 2-year contract, upon contract review or more frequently, or you just kind of not want to decide yet?
Well, I want to make sure I keep an open mind because I would like each of the colleagues to be able to put their input into this process. We annually review our direct hires. I think that would probably be the most appropriate time for them to have an annual review and to align it with their contract based on how council deems it should be handled.
But a 2-year contract is, we've already set that the previous year. That's a little, so if they've, this year, if we do a review on them, we won't be discussing their contract. We decided that last year. I think that's part of this question.
Okay. Well, annually, the contracts are typically up. Even if we do something unique, the reviews just remain annually. And that's kind of where I would probably land. That is an annual review, regardless if council wants to do indefinite contracts or if they want to do 2-year or 3-year. But direct hires should have an annual review on their performance. And if we're going to give raises, it needs to be merit-based raises, and the public needs to understand how we align those raises to make sure they understand that we're still protecting their tax dollars.
Okay.
Mayor?
Councilmember Orlando, then Vice Mayor.
So we talked about this the other night, the national city managers has their own process, and they recommend you do an annual review. They have a process. They have several examples. So we're not recreating a lot of things here. We used to do this in the past to our direct employees. It was written review. The way we did it is we would anything we said, it would be put onto one platform. We would know who said it. There's a lot of ways we could do this that could help us get a written contract, a written review like anybody else, and then we can move forward on working the logistics on what needs to be redacted and things like that. But I'd like to see us move forward, at least look into those ideas. And other cities are doing it. We know that. So there's benchmarks there. They're under the same laws we are. So how do they do it? I don't know. Maybe there's a way that they figured it out in Phoenix and Tempe. And so I'm sure they're not smarter than we are. So we'll figure it out.
Councilmember Poston.
I want to make sure
Vice
that.
Mayor Ellis.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Ellis. I'm getting caught up in the moment of thinking about what people are saying, so I apologize for that.
Well,
Vice Mayor.
No problem. I was on standby because I had my mute off, so I realized that it was my turn. Thank you again, Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I appreciate this conversation that I have been having with Councilmember Harris concerning this along the way and some other members of the council. Is it true? It's true that we would like to uphold everyone to a standard, and that's what we are trying to do tonight. We are not voting whether we are going to do this or not at this time. We are voting on our ideas of telling staff to go and work on putting something together that we will have to sit down and see if that's ethical enough for us to move forward with. And so I'm looking forward to get something from staff that will really reflect the nature of who Chandler is, our culture, and everything else that Chandler is all about. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Poston.
Thank you, Mayor. In the private sector, there's a saying that feedback is a gift. And this is coming across, I think, and it sounds like your concerns are that this is meant to be punitive. I think it's meant to set goals and objectives and make sure that we are saying what we want to measure and then during the review, measuring it. And I think that's pretty simple and straightforward. And this is done pretty much in every sector. So I think this is a pretty simple, straightforward item. And I think we can also, in addition to the ICMA, like Councilmember Orlando had mentioned, we can also be guided by HR, just like the rest of city staff is. So this is pretty standard procedure. So I think it's a positive thing, and it should be seen as a positive thing. Thank you.
Yeah, I just know with city manager, we in essence, when we craft our strategic plan, it's his job to me, I've always seen that as that's his job description. It's what we say are the goals and priorities of council. But I don't want to beleaguer my part in this, and I'm gonna vote yes to bring it to the next where we can kind of piece it apart. So unless there's further, if someone would like to make a motion, or we could kind of proceed from there. So.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we move forward with giving staff direction on this item so that they can bring it back to us.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second on item number 18. Council, please vote.
Vice Mayor Ellis?
Yes.
Councilmember Hawkins? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Council, on items number 19 and 20, we have a lot of comment cards, and there are also a few written cards. The written cards are just basically say, I am for this or I'm against this. And depending on, those will be entered into the record. If you would like, I could also say such and such is for, such and such is against these. If you would, otherwise we will just do what I traditionally do and just have them as part of the record. So when we get there, you can give me direction on what you would like to proceed. We'll start each with a staff presentation, questions, comments, back and forth deliberation, turn it over to speaker cards, and then come back further conversation, and then if there's the will, to bring it to a vote. Does that sound acceptable to council members like we've done in the past? All right, item number 19, resolution number 5913, ordering and calling a special election for the submission of proposed amendments to the Chandler Charter regarding eligibility of persons to serve consecutive terms as mayor and council member. Todd, I think that would be you.
That would be me. Thank you, Mayor. Let's see if I can. Okay, I got my presentation. Okay, item number 19 is Resolution 5913. 5913 was drafted and placed on the agenda for this meeting this evening because the language of the charter is ambiguous as to whether a person who has served 8 consecutive years as council member is eligible to serve additional terms as mayor without a break in service. The practice of the city going back to 1972 when the voters elected to impose term limits has been that a person may serve 2 consecutive terms as council member followed by 2 consecutive terms as mayor. This is a slide of what it looks like if anyone were to go on the web and search for the municipal code and the city charter and come to Article 2, Section 2.01. We are going to focus on subsection E. Copies of this section were provided to the public and out in the lobby. Subsection E, and this is just the highlighted portion we're going to focus on. No person shall be eligible to be elected to the office of council member for more than 2 consecutive terms, or to the office of mayor for more than 2 consecutive terms, or to more than a consecutive combination of same. A person elected to 2 consecutive terms as a council member or 2 consecutive terms as mayor, or a combination of same as above set forth, shall not be eligible to hold either office again until 4 years have elapsed. The section goes on and has what we're not going to necessarily focus on, but it has some outdated language and some language that's in conflict with another part of the charter. And I'll take questions on that in just a moment. But going to the history, the election history for this section of the charter, it has been put to the voters quite a few times. And we summarized this and we gave the details of the election history in a handout that was available to the public in the lobby. But as you'll see, at different times, the length of the term and the term limits have been presented to the voters. If it is the desire of council to continue the practice of a person may serve 2 consecutive terms as council member, followed by 2 consecutive terms as mayor, then council may propose an amendment to address the ambiguity, clarifying that a person may serve up to 16 consecutive years. This is the proposal in resolution 5913, subsection E, that no person shall be eligible to be elected to a combination of the offices of council member and mayor for more than 16 consecutive years. A person who is elected to 2 consecutive terms as council member or 2 consecutive terms as mayor shall not be eligible to hold the same office again until 4 years have elapsed since the end of the last term served. A person who is elected and served 16 consecutive years in a combination of the offices of council member and mayor shall not be eligible to hold either office again until 4 years have elapsed since the end of the last term served. That is the proposed amendment. Also to the proposed amendment is to strike through some outdated language and to clean up the rest of section E. Questions?
Councilmember, questions for Todd? Councilmember Hawkins.
Hi, Ton. I have a couple of questions in looking at the proposed amendment. I don't know if it's addressed somewhere else, but I did have a question. How do appointments feed into this amendment?
This amendment is only if elected.
So that doesn't affect any of the 16-year verbiage that is identified on here?
The verbiage is for the 16 consecutive year limit is for someone who has been elected
Okay.
to the term of, to 2 terms as council member, 2 terms as mayor.
And do we have that identified then somewhere else in the charter that already would allow that? I'm just concerned that would there be additional gray area if it's not addressed somewhere?
Related to appointments
To
or?
appointments and then feeding into the, yes, so if they were appointed into a position and then followed by 2 terms of council, 2 terms of mayor, or vice versa.
Through the mayor, council member Hawkins, it would not, an appointed time of office would not be counted in an elected, as an elected term.
Okay.
In this amendment.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question was, I saw that there was the removal of the resignation verbiage. Was there a reason why we chose to do that?
Yes. Through the mayor, councilmember Hawkins, that is in conflict with another part of the charter. So in another section of the charter, it states that if you're in the middle of your term as a council member, you want to run for mayor, you need to resign to run for mayor. The conflict is that the provision that's being proposed to be stricken states that if you resign, you cannot run for office of mayor or council member for 2 elections. That's in conflict because another provision says you can resign to run for mayor.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So just following up on her question about appointments, I think I might have been the last person appointed back in 2008. When I ran, I was unsuccessful and ran again. So it added a year, but have we ever had anyone appointed more than a year or 2 that you guys are aware of? Yeah, so it doesn't affect the elected. It just, for my case, it added an additional year as an appointee, but not necessarily, to the overall scheme of that. This would just address elected.
Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Additional questions or comments?
Mayor?
Councilmember Poston.
Thank you. Colin, could you give kind of a background of how we got here? I know this has happened fairly recently. Can you kind of walk through the process?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Poston, you want me to walk through the process of how it came to this meeting or the history of the election?
Yeah, you covered the history of the election and the charter very well. Thank you. It's really more how we are all here today.
Correct. The city attorney received a legal opinion from an outside elections lawyer that
I think we need to go back a little bit.
Apologize.
Where did it begin? Because why was she looking at this issue? It was brought up, I believe, by some residents.
Through the mayor, Councilmember Poston, I am not aware of that. I apologize.
Just speak to what you're aware of. That's fine.
There was a question that was, and I want to be careful because I would be speaking on behalf of the city attorney who's not here today. So my understanding is that a question was raised as to whether a council member who has served 2 4-year terms can run for mayor and then run, which is the history of what we have done in the city. And that question was put out to an outside elections attorney. And that elections attorney came back, and this is in the city council's memo, with a legal opinion, Ms. Christina Werther, opining that under the existing city charter language, a person who has served 8 consecutive years as a council member is not eligible to serve an additional term as mayor or council member until he or she has a break in service for at least 4 years. Other lawyers have reviewed this language and come to differing opinions. That's why I'm very much emphasizing that the charter language is ambiguous, can be subject to different interpretations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I know I still have we talked earlier and I brought up that there's still, to me, this isn't perfect. There is a scenario where either Councilmember Harris or Ellis, after serving 8 years on council, with this new language, could sit down for 2 years and then run for mayor, and then concurrent, right after that, run for council. So that even with this new language, it would allow some council members to run for council, sit down too, then run for mayor, and then run for council. So a total of 24 years in 26 years. And I don't know how likely that is, but again, there's still some potential issues with this not resolved with this particular language. And I don't have a solution to that, quite honestly, because I don't personally don't have a problem with someone serving their 8 years and then if they're off cycle wanting to run, but seemingly the loophole is that they could then continue for an additional 16 under the concurrent language. And I've thought about it since we talked when I raised this up, and I don't have a good solution to that, but it's just in there in case it gets raised later. Does that make sense? Under this current language, so.
Mayor. Can you
Councilmember
put-
Lando.
Thank you. Can you put the current language up again, please?
PowerPoint slide, you've got the current language today,
Yeah,
Oh.
what you're potentially voting on.
right? Oh, the proposed
Yeah,
amendment.
the
I beg
the
your
one
pardon,
you're,
Councilmember Orlando, that this would be it.
I think it's pretty clear. It says person who elected and served 16 consecutive years, the combination of office of council mayor shall not be able to hold the office until the last term served. 4 years.
Consecutive means tied together. It doesn't mean that there is a break. That's my,
There's two parts up there though.
it just, in this language, it just means they could not serve another 4 years as council, but they could, and I think they should be able to run from council and be able to run for mayor. But the consecutive would be if they then chose to run for mayor, to go back to council, is that they could have that additional 16 years. That's my point.
I don't see that. Attorney, do you see that in this?
Can you repeat the question? Councilmember Orlando, I apologize.
I said, do you see that in this language?
Did it count that is the question whether a mayor could run for another, could someone stop at 16 years and then do another 16 years? Is that the question?
No. I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but my first raising with this is 8 years on council, finishing your term, stepping down, and then running for mayor. That's not consecutive, or unless, to me, consecutive means that they're tied together with no break, and then being able to continue to do 16 consecutive years.
Mayor, that's correct. Because if you're elected to the same again for 4, so you have consecutive, let me back up.
Yeah, two.
A person who is elected and served 16 consecutive years in a combination of the offices would not be eligible. They'd have to sit out for 4 years, take a break in service of 4 years since the end of their last term. A person should not be eligible who was elected to 2 consecutive terms as council member or 2 consecutive terms as mayor should not be eligible to hold the same office again for 4 more years. They have
Right.
to sit out for 4 years. To be run, if you're a council member, you have to sit out for 4 years after 2 consecutive terms to run for council member again. If you've been mayor, you have to sit out for 2 consecutive, after you've had 2 consecutive terms as mayor, you have to sit out for 4 years before you can run for mayor again. And then the next sentence is to address, if you run a combination consecutive, 2 terms as council member, 2 terms as mayor, then that person must sit out for 4 years.
And Mayor?
So I'm still, yeah,
Sorry.
please proceed.
Did the attorney, the election attorney that we hired, did they look at this? I see a yes there.
Yes, you did.
All right, so that is election attorney who is very well known, judiciary, and that attorney looked at this and said, this is correct, what we're trying to do here.
Yes, you did.
Mayor,
Okay. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. If I may go back to the question that Councilmember Poston asked from the beginning of this, I would like to know, because I didn't find out about the attorney being getting advice from the attorney and going outside for counsel and all those things until Wednesday, prior to the Friday when we make the discussion to have a meeting on Monday. I didn't find out anything about that until Wednesday night. I would like to know which council member, because we are allowed to do that, to go to the attorney with information and request that she looks into things. I would like to find out who did that. Do we have it on record? Who gave the direction to the attorney to go to outside counsel?
Mayor, for that, to answer that question, would be something to be put to the city attorney. She is not here right now. It also calls for a privileged response. I don't think it's appropriate to provide that answer in this public setting.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you. The next question that I have is, since we have precedents, as you have been so clearly stated, and you show us all the previous mayors and council members and everybody who have run the same way, all the way back to Mayor Payne, who have run consecutively the 8, and then come back and do 2 with mayors and not the same office. Because of that, could we continue with the same way while we wait to go back and do a total review of the charter? Will that put us into any type of litigation or any type where the city will incur any problems if we continue, because of all those years of precedents that we have, and allow any council members currently who are trimming out, who would like to run for mayor, and then give us an opportunity to have public input, sitting down with people, put a committee together to review everything, and then put it on the ballot at the same time that everybody else is going to be running. Will that jeopardize the city in any way? That's the questions that I have at this time.
Through the mayor, Vice Mayor Ellis, that does call for legal advice. What I can say today is that the conclusion is that it is ambiguous. And so if the council wishes to address that ambiguity and propose a charter amendment to go to the voters, we present this resolution to do that. It is an option of the council to put it into committee and to see what the result is there if it's not amended.
No, well, what I'm saying is that the committee will not be making recommendation to us whether to amend or not. The committee will look into the charter as a whole, because this charter has not really pretty much been doing a thorough review since for 65 years. And so to piecemeal it, that's my view right now. And doing little piece here, as we could see, it has done so many different times to accommodate different people that are running in different ways. That's what brought us to this place right now. Had we really spent the time over the years to look and get public input and get everybody involved to thoroughly do a good job with this charter, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And it seems like by us trying to put something on so quickly right now is going to put us in the same position. So what I'm asking you is legal. Will this allowing precedents to take place right now to allow, let's say, for example, Councilmember Orlando has pulled paper to run for mayor, that we continue to allow Councilmember Orlando to run and then still find a committee together to put the charter and everything together, so in order for us to review that and put it on the ballot in 2026, will that jeopardize anything in the city? Because I don't see how it would be, because we've been doing this for so long.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Ellis, we cannot opine on whether it will put in jeopardy a particular council member's run. for office. And I did hear that. Is that right? So we can't opine on that on individuals running for office because of the city attorney represents the city of Chandler and the whole city council as a whole. So as far as the precedent and what that creates and whether or not there would be litigation, also cannot opine on whether that would happen and what the chances are of any kind of challenge to an individual running for office.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you now, it's either we put it on the ballot now or we wait for 2026. Either way, a decision has to be made.
The council may vote this resolution down. That is an option.
I'm not asking whether we vote it up or down. I'm just asking you the two options that we currently have.
The two options, yes, there are two options. Councilman, Vice Mayor Ellis, there's the option to pass the resolution. Well, there are a few options. There's an option to do nothing. There's an option to pass resolution 5913. There's an option to put it to a committee to look at charter amendments.
Well, you just gave me three options. You said do nothing. That's what I was discussing earlier by saying if we do nothing, you know, what will the ramification be? You said that we can't do that, and then now you gave it to me as an option again.
Vice Mayor Ellis, and through the mayor, my apologies. There is an option to do nothing. The resolution was brought forward to address an ambiguity, but the resolution, if it doesn't pass, then the council is choosing to do nothing, or the council can also put it into a committee if the council creates a committee to look at charter amendments. But then the council is not required to have a committee, and it's not required to pass this resolution. It's not required to address the ambiguity in the charter.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, on Monday night, for some reason, I didn't hear that part.
Councilor Encinas.
I just want to your point, because I'm reading here with the new language on here, and it says, a person who was elected 2 consecutive terms as a council member or 2 consecutive terms as a mayor shall not be eligible to hold the same office again until 4 years have elapsed since the end of the last term served. A person who is elected and served 16 consecutive years in a combination of the offices of council member and mayor shall not be eligible to hold either office again until 4 years have lapsed since the end of their last term served. So I think that answers your question there, no?
No, because to me, consecutive means no break. And if there was serving 8 years as a council member, and because a council member is off cycle, that the shot clock starts over again because they've taken a break, not consecutively. And then running for mayor starts the 16-year consecutive, meaning there's no break between. That's my question with this language. So the first 8 years are not consecutively tied with the additional 16, in my understanding, because it's not consecutive. Consecutive means you take no break unless a dictionary can educate me elsewise. I'm just saying, I'm not happy with the language. I just think there's things in here that we haven't fully addressed, is my point. And whether, again, that gets added, as you all know, I've sent you 2 emails inviting you to give me names to start a charter revision that, with your continuance, I'll put it on the agenda for next month, and then according to our Constitution, have the opportunity to provide your names as part of that. So I'm fully ready and raring to start a charter review committee with people that you would choose to be on there. But it's still, again, it's another, I just think this language, we're not totally there yet. That's my point. It might get us a step farther, but I'm not convinced we're there. So. Any additional comments before we invite the audience to speak? Councilmember Hawkins.
Just for clarification, I know the agenda went out yesterday. Can you tell me when the amendment proposals went out as well? Was that at the same time? And what time?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Hawkins, it was at the same time.
So 24 hours?
That's correct.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ton. Just have a few questions in regards to this item. I understand, so the Mayor, I understand what you're saying, that if there is, what does consecutive look like? Ton, did you get a chance to talk to the election attorney in regards to this particular language, the one that actually said that it's supposed to be 8 years on, 4 years off? Did you get a chance to talk to election attorney?
This language was ran by the elections attorney. She opined that it is sound. As far as did I talk to her about different scenarios? No.
Okay, so does the election attorney has already reviewed this language that we're proposing to potentially vote yes or no on to put on a resolution?
Councilmember Harris, that's correct.
The language as it stands, it remains unclear. Historically, it has been, 8 years, basically 8 years as a council member, and typically you move on to be, if you have ambitions, you can move on to be the mayor for the following 8 years, which means there's 16 consecutive terms, 16 consecutive years, and then it's shut off. It's supposed to happen, right?
Correct.
And I think the concern is that if a person who's in the off cycle, if a council member is in the off cycle and they take a 2-year break, not by mere forcing, but just they're taking a 2-year break, and then they want to pick back up and run for, let's say, the mayoral seat or whatever it may be, does that language address that gap?
Councilmember Harris, that language does not address that gap. If with an off year and a 2-year break in service would mean that there would not be a 16-year prohibition.
Okay, so I guess then the following question is that if a council member and the future council members, if they run for 8 years, they win, they're in the off cycle, there's a 2-year break, then they decide to, let's say they decide to run for mayor, is there a question of whether they can then go from mayor back to council, serve for mayor for 8 years and then go back to council to serve for 8 years?
The language does not specifically address that. However, because there has been a 2-year gap, they could run. They're prohibited from running for mayor. They've termed out. They could run for council member.
Okay, so the language basically what we're talking about is because council members, just for everyone understanding, council members run, there's 3 council members that run at a time every 2 years. And then once those council members run for that time, there is a gap that they could have, like they can be in the off mayoral cycle. And if that's what you're talking about, that's kind of what you're talking about, that can we address that? Is that addressable?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Harris, this council may address that. There could be a motion to amend the language that's proposed in this resolution, or at a different time. But that could be, obviously, that could be addressed. This was the proposed language was to address what was ambiguous and to reflect the historical practice and what for the 16 consecutive years in the city of Chandler and what's been going on since 1972. So it's to reflect that. But yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
And then again,
Mayor.
I just looked this up. Consecutive means following one another in uninterrupted succession of order. So uninterrupted is consecutive as language. So,
Mayor,
Councilmember.
Mayor,
but actually, Vice
Go-
Mayor,
go
let me go
ahead,
real
please.
quick.
Yeah.
you're interpreting it differently than the mayor's understanding it. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
If I understand through the mayor, Councilmember Poston, if I understand the mayor correctly, the question was whether or not somebody who has a 2-year break in service between council member and mayor could then go back and run for council member after terming out as mayor, correct? And the answer is that under the amendment, if the amendment were to pass on the language of the charter, that is correct, because it's not a consecutive 16 years. The prohibition is only for a consecutive 16 years. You'd have to take a four-year break in service before you could run for either office again. If there was a 2-year break in between going from council member to mayor, then there you don't have, the language does not prohibit that person from running. It prohibits them from running for mayor, but it would not prohibit them from running for council, because there wouldn't be a 16 consecutive year issue.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may go back to a question that Councilmember O.D. Harris asked concerning the attorneys, which are election attorneys at this time. How many of them have we consulted with? Because I heard you very clearly, Ms. Dunn, that you said there were many different views or position on the interpretation of what they read in the charter. How many did we consult, and how many different opinions did we have?
Yes, through the mayor, vice mayor, what that is a reference to is, so we have our elections attorney, outside elections attorney we consulted with. We have the attorneys in the office of the city attorney. We also received, yes, and then the third category is we received feedback from outside of that. We received feedback from that some outside other attorneys who are not attorneys for the city of Chandler have a differing views.
And if I remember correctly, I even seen someone who has an opinion who lives in California, also in one of the articles, also had an opinion about it. So there are many opinions, and they differ with each other concerning this. Bringing me right back to my point that I made, because of such different opinions, so many different people have an interpretation about it, and I think it's safe for us to say that we continue with precedents, and then we clean this stuff seriously. We take the time and clean this thing so that we never have to come this way again.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Poston.
I have 2 questions. Under the current opinion of the city attorney, can the mayor run for city council? And under the new language, can the mayor run for city council? And then additionally, under the current opinion of the city attorney, can Councilmember Orlando run for mayor? And under this language, the new language, can Councilmember Orlando run for mayor? I think that's pretty much what we're talking about here.
The mayor, Councilmember Poston, if I could clarify your question, because the opinion was received from an outside attorney, Christina Werther, the elections attorney. So what the city attorney has concluded is it's ambiguous, and that's in the city council memo. But it's the outside attorney who looked at this and said that there is a term limit that mayor cannot run for council member without sitting out 4 years, and that there is an issue with a council member running for 4 years. I'd like to talk about the position of mayor and council member versus a person.
Absolutely.
And because we're not going to opine on whether the mayor,
Understood. Yeah. Understood. That's a better approach. Thank you.
But she did opine that a council member who has served 2 consecutive 4-year terms could not run for mayor without taking a break in service. And
great. So, and then I think could you go back to what we've been doing for the last 50 years and the other council members who have done that? And then maybe please give us an understanding of how heavily we weigh precedent when it comes to law.
Sure. through the mayor, Councilmember Poston. Historically, we've had 16 consecutive years has not been an issue. There was a 12 consecutive point when the mayor was a 2-year term mayor position. And so 12 consecutive years were allowed. Language got flubbed up and it became ambiguous with some changes to what appears to be just the length of the term of the mayor. And other cities, so Mesa, for example, has this 16-year consecutive, like it's clear that you can run for 2 terms, 2 4-years as council member and 2 4 years as mayor, and have 16 consecutive years, and then you have to take a break in service. This language that's being proposed would align with the city of Mesa, and it would align with historical practice of the city of Chandler, which has been 16 consecutive years of 2 terms as council member, 2 terms as mayor.
Right.
It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
And how heavily do we weigh precedent in the terms of the law?
Well, precedent is taken into account certainly by courts and by public. It's and by how things are interpreted in the charter, just in general. Yes.
But as of today, we have ambiguous language with multiple opinions. And what we're trying to do with this particular item is to get it to the voters and to clarify their intent, which is, from my understanding, we're going to hear a little bit about the intent of the voters in the previous elections. Did we do some research on that, the intent of the voters?
Councilmember Poston, we presented the publicity pamphlets, and then we presented information on which we've dug through all of that. We presented information summarizing whether the voters rejected or approved certain charter amendments for this particular section.
Okay.
And what they've done there.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor.
thank you. If I may ask the attorney again, let's go back to precedents, because I have done also my homework and speaking with judges, and whether in the state of Arizona or outside of the state of Arizona, the higher court, Supreme Court, make some phone calls the last couple of days. And in this case for Chandler, if precedence does not weigh very heavily, we would have to go back to all the way to Mayor Payne from the time when he ran, and consecutively with him, Mayor Don, Mayor Jay, and currently the Mayor Hockey, meaning that every single thing that they have done as mayors in their tenures will have to be erased, and we would have to start from scratch again. So this is how heavily precedence is weighing in this case, for us to be able to give the people of Chandler a chance to go at this charter and do a proper review for it. And that's where I am really not struggling, but I have a concern that if precedence does not weigh in this case, then we will have to really ask ourselves a question, some real deep questions. How have we been running this city if precedence doesn't really work? And we all agreed that it does. And so therefore, we can continue as is, give the people of Chandler a chance to go through this review process, and then put it on the ballot in 2026 without affecting nobody and hurting the city in any way for that matter. And we can continue doing that. So that's the part that I would like you to weigh in, Attorney Don.
Vice Mayor Ellis, through the mayor. It would be speculative to know if it went to committee what that would look like if the charter is not amended at the end of this year, but the precedent does hold weight. It would, if something were challenged in court, the precedent as part of a factor that a court would consider. That's almost as much as I can say without completely speculating. But it certainly is within the city council's discretion to send this to as I've said before, to a committee and not pass this resolution today.
Council, are we ready to listen to, I've got quite a few speaker cards on this. Would you, anything else to say before
Just
we invite the audience?
right
Councilmember Harris.
right before we go to comments, Attorney Ton, who prepared the language for today?
Councilmember Harris, that was a collaborative effort with the city attorney and with the elections attorney and myself and another assistant attorney, a couple of other assistant attorneys in the office. It was a collaborative effort.
And it was thoroughly reviewed by licensed attorney, because my concern is even no matter where we go with this, if it goes to a subcommittee where there stays, my concern is that it still will be attorneys that will have the final say to look at the language, because that's who we're paying, that's what we're looking. Even if we can open up the charter and say these are all the wonderful things we want from Disneyland, and we put it there, at the end of the day, the attorneys will be the one to say this is the language, this is the intent, this is the interpretation. And that's kind of what I'm hearing today, is that our attorneys are licensed attorneys, because if they are writing language that the intent is to do the very opposite, then that means they would not be necessarily doing their job. And then the historical precedence has been 16 years on, 4 years off. That's been the historical precedence. And you said that that does carry weight in a court of law. I'm not a lawyer, did not go to school to be a lawyer, but I do depend on the people I pay to be the lawyer. And I think that over time, what we've seen is 16 years on, 4 years off. That's kind of been the goal, or 4 terms consecutive, 1 4-year break. And that's kind of what I've seen over the years. So I kind of want to weigh that with the fact that I'm not an attorney, but I am trying to use reason to understand the development of these events, to make sure that if we are insinuating other things other than the fact that historical precedent may take place or not. I'm not a lawyer to say that. I'm not a judge to say what that could or could not be. I just wanted to make sure that we're understanding that the attorneys put this together, this language together, to make sure that it can go to the ballot. And that's kind of what I want to arrest it. Is that correct? Or do you want to add anything to that?
Councilmember Harris, that's correct. I mean, the language though is to be, what the language ultimately is in a resolution to go to the voters to vote on for amending the charter, or if it's a committee that then goes to the council, or members of the public were to bring forth a petition to amend the charter. The role of it, but in the role of this attorney's office is to reflect what the council wants to do with amending the charter and put to the voters. So we give the advice on whether or not this language gets us out of the ambiguity, whether this language or any other language gets us out of the ambiguity, gets to the purpose of what the charter, what the council wants the charter to say, and the voters to vote on the council. Let me, that I mean putting it to the voters to vote on what the charter should say. And what we hope to do is to let you know when it aligns or does not align with election laws, other Arizona state laws, and other parts of the charter.
So based on your analysis and based on our attorneys and our group of attorneys that have come to put this together, the city attorney has reviewed this language and feels that it does answer the question of ambiguity, or it does specifically says this is what it is. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilmember Retzi, a resident review committee, their task is to be presented with ambiguity and inconsistency, and then to make recommendations to the council. Legal's position is to make sure that whatever recommendations are made, that they're legal, that they stand. So it's not It's not either or. It's just having more eyes on it and citizens in the community to be able to weigh in on whatever's presented with them. But ultimately, we pay legal to make sure that they don't put us into a bad spot.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying, Mayor, is that even when and I'm waiting, I'm going to wait to listen to all the comments that's today. But what I am saying that even when we put together the subcommittee would then still have to go back to the same attorney team to interpret and write the stuff, the same items that we have today. It's going to go back to the same people. So whether we take the time to do that, and that's fine if that's what we want, if council, if that's what we end up doing today. But I am saying that it's going back to the same people. And so I think that we're setting a precedent to let people know, all the mayors before then, all the council members before then, all those that was involved before then, it was very clear that the combination of the language went right back to the same city attorney that we have today. And whether we collectively say all these individuals were wrong, I've had an opportunity to talk to so many of the previous mayors and council members and things like that, and they have been able to weigh in. And I think our precedent that we're setting today is that we put 100 people together. Guess what's going to happen? It's going back to the same legal team who's going to then say, we're going to cipher out what you're trying to give. So I'm just trying to make sure we understand, whether we take a week, whether we take 5 months, whether we take a year, is going back to the same city attorney with the same team who you're talking to today to make the same way. And unfortunately, because I'm not an attorney, and I'm sure I don't know, we're going to have 100 attorneys looking at this together. I mean, one thing I know about attorneys, boy, they can find an angle about anything. So I just want to make sure that we're very clear, and I'm looking forward to the comments to come forward so that way I can hear what my constituents are saying they want me to do. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah. And I would just say that I'm neither attorney either, but as I looked at this language this afternoon, I found a loophole. And I think more eyes on anything are better. A loophole that our legal department did not see. And neither am I an attorney, but I just think the more eyes you put on anything, you get perspective. And the same legal team were then able to bring things together. That's
So,
the
Mayor,
difference.
we can clear up your concern with an amendment to this resolution to clear up your concern. But overall, to look at it and say that our team that we paid to do this, our legal team paid to do this, to look at it and say there's something that we need to kind of look more at. Everyone is invited to look at the language. It was posted for the public to see the language as well. In fact, constituents did email in with the language and things like that. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that everyone has the same information I have right here on the dais. Everyone has the same information, and some have it in front of their hands today. So I just wanted to make sure that if there's a concern about that particular area, then we can make an amendment to change that language to make sure it comes back with that, or we can look at that directly and allow the voters to look at this themselves, if that's what we're going to do today.
Okay. Councilor, you ready to listen to folks? All right. In the order that these were presented to me, in the order that I'm going to call you up. So when you come up, you have up to 3 minutes to talk. Please stick on target of this specific item. It's also not a question of personalities up here in the days. It's please reflect your comments to the specific. As I mentioned, you have up to 3 minutes. It is just as valid to say, I agree with this person. And rather than articulate if you're saying the exact same thing. When the light is green, I invite you to state your name and address for the record. When it turns yellow, it's time to start wrapping up your comments. And when it's red, it's time to be done. So we're all on the same page with all of that. And with that, the first person is Mr. Bullock. And please make it easy on me. When you see it turns red, please, you're about a sentence away.
Is that it?
Ready? There you go.
Okay, Mayor, Council, thanks for listening to us. I'd like to say first that I did send you an email too, and most of my comments are in that. I see our city charter as kind of like our bylaws. In every organization I've been in, the board can never change the bylaws. If you want to amend the bylaws or you want to suspend the rules, you have to send it to the body. And that's why I think the voters should be involved in this. A couple of members have stated that maybe we build a committee and revamp the whole thing. If the thing is 64 years old and it needs to be looked at, why are we putting a little Band-Aid on a leak when the whole pipe needs replacing? We just need to move forward with that. I think also that voting on the resolutions might be a little self-serving. And I think that if you're voting on the resolutions and it impacts your current or future your current office or your future candidacy, I think that maybe you should recuse yourself from voting on this particular issue. I think there's a conflict of interest there. I'm hoping that you'll do the right thing and that that we can just move forward. I disagree with all of these resolutions. They need to be sent to the voters, and I just I don't know. I'm just not happy with the way this has come down. It's very unfortunate that we're in this position, and I know it negatively impacts some of you. But that can't be the issue for the city and for the citizens. Any questions for me? I'm done.
And again, Council, if you have questions, since this is scheduled, but to be clear, the voters do vote on this. So it's just what do they vote on? Because this will be anything of a charter change goes to voters to vote up or down. So Council, tonight or not, is merely sending some items to the voters. And then they ultimately will vote up or down on it.
So tonight is voting on what is sent to the voters?
Correct.
And when is it sent to the voters?
The next election would be November 4th, I believe, or if it goes to a charter revision committee, since the language needs to be set by the 9th of January, and we will not have a charter revision committee in place, the next election possibility or next election afterwards.
And what do we do until then?
Yeah, you've said your comments, so we're just dialoguing. We operate on precedent, on practice. All right. Councilmember Poston.
There was an item about council members affected. City Attorney, could you, I'm not going to ask that question. What I want to know, or maybe to clarify my understanding is that there are only 3 people up here on this dais who wouldn't be affected by this lack of change and that ambiguity, and that would be Councilmember Hawkins, Councilmember Encinas, and myself, in terms of if that current language from the outside counsel would be that a 2-term council member couldn't run for mayor. That would mean that would leave Councilmember Hawkins, if she chose to resign to run, but Councilmember Encinas and I, because our terms would align. Is that correct? That's what we've talked about. I just want to clarify.
Councilmember Poston, I did not follow your question because I was thinking you were.
We've had discussions. There was a question about recusal and about them recusing, and I don't believe that's the case at all. When we're talking about elections and council members, we're all affected eventually. So, but in that current understanding, the way I have been given to believe is that the beneficiaries of the current understanding of that amendment or that charter language would mean that in terms of the next election of availability to run, it would be myself and Councilmember Encinas that would be, because we are only 1-term council members, would be eligible to run for mayor, which I don't want to do. I just to clarify, that is not my intent. I have no intention But I stand to benefit and I still see this as wrong. And I just want to make sure that my understanding is correct. Thank you.
Through the mayor, Councilmember Poston, the city attorney has not opined that about anyone being eligible or ineligible to run for office after they finish serving the term they are in right now. We have an opinion from an outside elections attorney. We have the city attorney concluding there is ambiguity. And so there is no legal conflict in this in anyone on this council voting on this resolution.
And Councilmember, I would, if we were actually making the decision rather than deferring something to
Agreed.
the voters, it's a different thing in my understanding as well.
And Mayor, and thank you for that. And thank you for that clarification that we're not voting on something that's going into the charter. We're voting on something that's going to go out to the public for them to decide if something's going to go into the charter. Because we swore oath to the charter, and then the voters are the one that takes the charter and they decide to put whatever language they want. And we come back and we put the language in per the city attorney and per the vote. So we're not voting on charter language that's going to change today. We're voting on something that could potentially go on the ballot in November for you to vote on to decide if you want the language to stay unclear or clear. And that's basically what you will be doing in November.
All right, next speaker, Mr. Minkus, please come, state your name and address for the record. You have up to 3 minutes to
Mayor,
share your
before you
thoughts.
start my time, I appreciate if I have an opportunity just to ask a question for clarification. I've heard everything.
It's part of your comments, I think, sir. So
Okay,
please
well, they're
proceed.
not part of my comments because I've been very confused by what is the current law or the current charter and when did it become effective?
Let's start the clock because this is your time and we can respond to that.
Well, if you'd respond to it before I make my presentation, I'd appreciate that.
What was your question again?
What is the current charter law on this and when did it become effective?
The current charter has been in existence since 72. Some of this language has been nebulous since 72. It's changed and altered through the years, but the language in combination thereof has been around since 72.
Okay, but the current language that they said that the attorney that reviewed this, who very clearly stated a person has to serve 8 consecutive years as a council member, is not eligible to serve an additional term as mayor or council member until they've had a 4-year break.
So it's your time. Keep
Okay,
going.
if that's true, when you became mayor, you were in council for 9 years, according to your information here. How did you become mayor?
If you want me to answer your question in the middle of your comment, possibly I can.
Okay, well, my comment then is, as a Chandler resident and legal Arizona registered voter, I'm attending this meeting tonight that the council not vote on a resolution 5913 tonight, but rather resolve and to hold a special election as soon as possible, so the voters, both in-person voting as well as in mail voting, voters decide on such a change to the charter as warranted and desired. Well, we know that both the mayor and council have done some good job and some positive things for Chandler. If any prior mayoral or council elections were not then and are not now in compliance with the current city charter, then with respect to the voters, procedural justice and due process of law should be taken immediately to correct that violation and legitimize that office with qualified representative. As this issue, along with other city lawsuits that are currently pending, can have a negative impact on the city's bond ratings that may impact the taxpayers and the city budget. This special election should be done immediately, as soon as possible, and the resolution 5914 can also be included with that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Tom,
questions or
Mayor?
comments?
Yeah. Mr. Linkus, thank you for sharing your comments. You mentioned a special election. How much would a special election cost the taxpayers?
Mayor Harkey, Councilmember Harris, the cost for a special election, when we run an election that's outside of the even numbered years in August and November, the cost is approximately $471,000 right now. And that includes the amount that we spent or give to the county and the amount for the publicity pamphlet. During a special election, if other questions are on the ballot from other jurisdictions, like if the school board runs an election or if the county puts an item on, that can reduce that cost, that $471,000. We don't really know how much that reduces until we know who's on the ballot, because we're paying per voter. So if we share some of those voters, then that cost is reduced. So as it is right now, a special election not held in August or November of even numbered years is approximately $471,000.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Minkus.
Thank you.
Next one up, Lisa Askey. Please state your name and address for the record. You have up to 3 minutes to share your thoughts.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Lisa Askey, and I live at 2301 East Indian Wells Drive in Chandler. I am very perplexed by a lot of the information I'm hearing tonight. I'm going to go ahead and read my comments so I can be clear. As a nearly 40-year resident of Chandler, I'm saddened to learn that the city charter, our guide to good local governance, has been misinterpreted and consequently overlooked for the past 50 years. This document, written for the people and essentially by the people, should be clear, concise, and not open to interpretation. Unfortunately, both the section that is in question in the charter and the proposed amendment to fix it is anything but. It would be extremely unfortunate to rush a vote to amend the city charter when said amendment is poorly written and open to more interpretation. Mayor Harkey should immediately call for a subcommittee consisting of city residents and local attorneys to review the full city charter and propose, with clarifying language, proper amendments that will withstand legal challenges. The residents of Chandler deserve better than what has transpired. We are a city of smart, engaged, and civically minded individuals and families that have expressed faith in our elected officials through our votes. I call on each of you, our elected officials, to prioritize public transparency and to put forth good faith efforts into solving these issues. Please vote no on the proposed amendment to be placed on the ballot in November of 2025 and look to having it placed on the ballot in 2026 after a full review by a subcommittee. Please vote yes to support this subcommittee to properly vet and propose clarifying amendment changes in proper timeframe. One that is not rushed to the sole benefit of any particular candidate, but for the good of the city and its future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember.
I don't know. I just want to ask a question. In the previous pass of the charter changes, have there been, underneath other council members, have there been such a subcommittee in the previous pass? Did they do, when it's specifically dealing with election, was there like a community subcommittee that did happen?
Yes. So the previous language that addressing elections, I was on a subcommittee, I think in '94, appointed by Mayor Tibshraeny, for example, to look at the charter changes, including the elections as part of that. And there's that list that was presented. There's quite a few, and Councilmember Orlando has a longer window than I do in the same.
Mayor,
Please.
to answer your question, we've done it both ways. We've done it from the dais like we're doing tonight, made changes to the charter, or at least recommended changes, went to the voters voted up or down. We've also done it the other way as well. Both are successful, and both go back to what has to be done to the voters. The voters will decide this. That's the key right now. So we've done it both ways. Both were successful in getting it to the voters to vote.
Councilmember Hawkins.
quick question on what you mentioned as far as that we've provided this in the past with both ways. Has it ever been done in such a rush scenario, though? Obviously, we're in a tight window as far as what we have to be hitting in order to make that November election. Is that something that you're familiar with? If we've ever done that, or have we had a little bit more time to really vet it through?
There's been, again, both ways. It was, in fact, one time it was on a consent agenda to extend terms. So yeah, I mean, a consent agenda tells me that we're trying to hide something. So this is an action. It was published. So yes, it's been both ways. And on the consent agenda, I forced it to go to action so we could discuss it. So, well, yeah, thank you.
All right, next person, Sherry Johnson. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 3 minutes to share your thoughts.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Johnson. I am at 3627 East Agave Road, and I serve as a community leader for Legislative District 12, which includes parts of Chandler. I'm here tonight to voice my strong support for Resolution 5913, which calls for a special election to consider amendments to the city charter. The city attorney's request for clarification raises concerns about longstanding precedent and invites the question, why now? We are here today because verbiage in this section of the charter regarding consecutive terms is being called into question. By amending the charter, we have the opportunity to preserve the historical practice of continuous service, uphold the voters' longstanding support for term limits, and ensure that committed public servants are not unfairly penalized by ambiguous language. Placing this clarification on the November 2025 election ballot is a necessary step to provide voters with clear guidance without additional cost to taxpayers before the 2026 election for City Council. It will help the city avoid unnecessary and expensive litigation and, importantly, prevent any perception of partisan interference. For these reasons, I respectfully urge all council members to support Resolution 5913. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can we ask the audience not to applaud in between or not to make noise and comments?
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up is Dwayne Lidman. Mr. Lidman, you of all people know the drill.
Dwayne Lidman, 2301 West Palomino Drive, Chandler, in the Orange Tree neighborhood. I read the entire verbiage, text of Resolution 5913 and Exhibits A and B, and I support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Efficiency. Next up is Joe Granado. Mr. Granado. Welcome, sir. State your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
Mayor, Council. My name is Joe Granado. I appreciate the opportunity you give me here to talk. I'm not going to be as fast as that guy was, but I'm be pretty quick. There's a few people actually that said some pretty important things, which I agree with. I do got to say, as a longtime resident of Chandler, native, went to high school here, went to college in the state, had a business here for 30 years that I sold. It was right on Peckles Road. I am Chandler. I live in San Marcos. And I can tell you today, I'm really disappointed in this, right? I expected more for our leaders here. Or I wouldn't say the leaders are actually at fault here, but I'm hoping that the verbiage that is actually put in place by the legal here in the city is correct so we can move forward. And then if that's not correct, we need to look at our legal staff, right, for having these problems, okay? But most importantly, I don't want to change what has happened here in Chandler for years. There's a formula of success that's been happening here for many, many years. Chandler's good. We love Chandler, but Chandler can use some improvements too as well, obviously from this, right? So all I'm saying is I read the original documents. It talks about the term limits, and I don't read it how the attorney reads it. I read it that so we can continue moving forward the way we've been doing it. The amendment actually says a little bit more detail, and I like what it says. It basically says what everybody knows, that what we want which is a council member to go, can go up to 8 years and then go another 8 years as mayor and then take a break of 4 years before continuing with, with public service like that again. I believe that's how it should maintain. I don't read the confusion that I've heard here. I don't see it that way. But I like the amendment. I think we should move forward with the amendment.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Renee Lopez. You also know the drill.
I'm not used to this side of it. All right, thanks, Mayor, Council. Appreciate it all the time. Love the debate. So I'll stick to my time here. I've been in your situation before and can appreciate weighing many opinions, options, the nuances that your votes are going to be taken today. So I have a great relationship with many of you here and with many Chandler businesses, nonprofits, staff, and community leaders. And I've been approached many times. It's kind of why I'm here. Is I got asked what the heck is going on. So tonight I wanted to kind of give my opinion and some of the advisement that I remember in the past. And so I've helped many of you on the dais before with some advice and mentorship, and I consider many of you friends. And I know you all have a heart for Chandler and want the best for everyone in the city. So I ask you to take a deeper look and ask what is best for the constituency. A knee-jerk reaction to push through an inconceivable amendment that I've read also, and we have heard already multiple interpretations, in my opinion, still lacks clarity, as the mayor had pointed out. And to me, that makes me ask more questions. So again, I understand the negative perceptions that and the notoriety that this is going to bring to the city. But I implore you not to make it worse by approving an amendment that could still expose us to further scrutiny and put forth a solution that makes our leaders, you all, look unqualified, and of which I know you're not. So I've heard that there's a perceived need to rush this to address legal liability. However, to me, that seems disingenuous. As has been established before, that the agenda item itself states other lawyers have reviewed the language and have reached different conclusions. So under the existing charter, as established by decades of precedent, everyone's intentions for future runs, as has been mentioned before, should be unaffected. Chandler has grown phenomenally into a city to be proud of. One I myself proudly served alongside many of you for many years. So please do not throw that away due to a perceived fear and undo all the reasons why you ran to represent this community in the first place. Also placing within the bonding election to the general public, it hinders the passage of needed capital by planting in the minds of voters, do they really know what they're doing? And are now asking that they want more money. How can they be trusted? I do not need to explain to you the importance of the bond election for the continued prosperity of Chandler. So please do not jeopardize our future. I ask you to vote no, as these amendments establish a charter, and please do establish a charter committee to thoroughly review these in the charter in whole, and so that we can work towards a better way and move forward, not my way or your way, but the right way for Chandler. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilmember Orlando.
I just want to compliment you. Corporation must be doing well because you look fit. Good job, buddy.
A lot of running around.
Keep it doing. Keep going what you're doing physically.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll be available after if you want to talk more.
You just give me a routine, your workout routine.
All right. Next up, Francesca Martin. Francesca, please state your name and address for the record. You have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Francesca Martin, and I'm a proud Chandler resident of 20 years, soon to be 21. It's my whole life. And proud alumni of our Chandler Unified School District. Go Hamilton Huskies. And recently, the Chandler City Attorney released a new interpretation of our city charter that contradicts 50 years of precedents and bars faithful public servants from running for mayor. While I strongly believe that our city charter provides necessary guidelines for city procedure, I do not believe we should be able to selectively choose how and when we want to enforce this charter. Our city has seen countless faithful public servants run for mayor after serving 2 terms as a city council member. They have all given years of public service to our city, but would violate this new interpretation of our laws. Choosing to enforce this guideline in a different manner now would not only be unfair, as a solid historical precedent has already been set, but would block faithful public servants and 2-term council members from running in the future and potentially open up our city to litigation. These conflicting guidelines should not impact our current mayor and council, and we, the voters, should have a say in clarifying the charter and resolving these conflicts. I urge this council to send clarifying changes to the ballot this November. Today is the last day, alongside the already proposed special election, and have voters decide on the proposed amendments. I would like to thank our council and current Mayor Hartke for their service and dedication to our city, and I remain committed to allowing public servants like yourselves to continue to serve our city. I urge your support on this measure today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Beth Brazel. Beth, state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Beth Brazel, and my address is 6130 West Shannon Street. I have lived, voted, and paid taxes here in Chandler for the past 30 years. I am here this evening to ask the City Council to vote yes on Resolution 5913, ordering and calling a special election for the submission of proposed amendments to the City Charter regarding the eligibility of persons to serve consecutive terms as mayor and council member. The current City Charter must be clarified to avoid confusion and expensive litigation. Chandler has a long history of council members running for mayor. I and the majority of Chandler voters voted for Boyd Dunn, Jay Tibshraeny, and Mayor Hartke to be mayor after serving 2 terms on the City Council. Chandler voters have overwhelmingly supported keeping the term limits at 16 years. After the last election, to try to extend the council terms in 2014, Mayor Tibshraeny stated at that time the council members would still be able to run for mayor after serving 2 terms on the council. We already have a bond election scheduled for November 4th, so adding this to the ballot is being fiscally responsible. Again, I am asking the council to vote yes on Resolution 5913 and let the Chandler voters decide whether the current city charter should be amended. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Human. It's former council member night.
Mayor,
Council member.
he always looks fit.
Thank you, Mayor. Rick Human, 4310 West Dublin Street, Chandler, Arizona, 85226. As you all know, I served on this dais with several of you guys for 8 years. As part of the change we sent to the voters in 2012, this change was simply to state that the mayor's terms would be 2 4-year terms versus 4 2-year terms. So the question about have we done it in different ways, this was done by the council to the voters, and the voters decided on that. It's basically the same language that was used back in 1997 that again was voted on by the voters to allow the mayor to serve 8 years at that time. The only change that happened was we took back then the 12 came out for some reason. I think the city attorney at the time said it was ambiguous and duplication. So the history of these changes was always to allow a total of 16 years, 8 as council member and 8 as mayor. If the voters chose that, the voters get to decide whether you're elected or not elected. The election of Boyd Dunn and you, Mayor Hartke, was done under this charter. I remember specific conversations with the mayor at the time that we wanted to make sure that no one could serve longer than in the past. That's why in 2012, the language is very clear that we had 2 2-year terms counted as a 4-year, and then another 4 years counted as a total of 8 years. We were very specific about that. Now we have a ruling that could be argued in different ways from different attorneys. As we all know, attorneys have different opinions. I think this was rushed by the attorney, number one, but we're at a deadline right now to get things onto the ballot in November. I heard a lot of things about cleaning up the language. The language in this amendment is fine. We can always go back and tweak it in 2026, but we have a chance here to clarify something that's been precedence for all these different years and stuff. So The language of the ordinance and discussion should also have been reviewed along with the precedent that was put in place for all these past years. Reading just the language is just not enough. We have to go back and look at history. I doubt that this election lawyer did that, because if they would have looked at it, all the years of Mayor Tip Traney being elected, Moy Dunn elected, the mayor currently being elected as well and stuff. So this amendment will clarify that language. And again, we can go about it next year and clean up those little tweaks about the gap in 2 years or appointment, things like that. So this isn't extending anybody's tenure to serve other than what has been the precedent all these years. There are people saying this is being rushed. It isn't, as the voters will have the next 5 months to study the issue. I would hate to see the next election for mayor to be thrown into a legal mess. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Human.
Mayor.
Councilmember Harris.
Vice Mayor, former Vice Mayor Rick Human, come back up to answer some questions.
Absolutely.
Because the reason why I want to ask you some questions, because I think you will have a better understanding. I know we heard from Councilmember Orlando about some of the historical context. Can you just briefly just talk a little bit more about the historical context? What were you guys doing? What was the thought during that time and era in which you guys said, this is what we're trying to do, this is how we're trying to clean it up? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's important.
Absolutely. 1997 was before I served on council. The language was changed at the time you can only serve 12 years. And the time it was changed, again, to the voters, that allowed the mayor then to be 8 years for a total of 16 years. In 2012, we had a situation where the mayor's terms were every 2 years. It was crazy. The mayor had to run constantly raising money. It didn't give us really good continuity. So again, it was done on the dais. It went to the voters in 2012 to say to the voters, okay, we want to change the mayor to 2 4-year terms, okay? And again, because Mayor Tip Traney had already served 2 years, we counted that as 4. It's in the language. So it's that 4 plus another 4, gave him his 8. It went to the voters, and the attorneys at the time didn't catch the ambiguity of changing those couple of words, but it's precedent that's been set. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but you know what? You look at a lot of legal briefs, and it's always talking about what was the intent of the law. What did Congress do? You can get tweaking words and things like that. So it went there. 2014, the council decided to try and ask the voters for a 3rd term. Voters voted it down. In 2012, the voters overwhelmingly approved that, because we weren't asking for extended terms for the mayor to serve 12 years. And we were very careful with Mayor Chip Traney at the time. We did not want to allow him to be able to serve 12 years. So one of the questions earlier, what would happen, you know, if somebody comes off for 2 years, all that kind of stuff. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just kind of wanted to better understand the framework, because you were in that era of time serving, and I thank you for laying a trail for me to serve as well in this beautiful city. I just kind of want to get some more historical context.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Human.
Mayor, I have a question for Councilmember
Vice Mayor.
and former Vice Mayor Human. The question that I have at this time for you, I know you talked about the precedents, and you also spoke about the fact that you were on council at the time when all those decisions was made, in order for us to clear out some of these languages that today you think that they were what they were intended versus what really was happening at the time. My question for you right now is, how is it that you approach the no? Let me rephrase that question, because I will not ask you in this matter. What was it that triggered you to ask the attorney, the city attorney, because she reported to me that you asked her that question concerning the mayor running for council at the time? What was it that triggered you to ask that question? Because you were there also with a former mayor, Jay, when you asked that question of her. What triggered you to do that?
So I will, for full transparency, the mayor and I happened to be down here for a bond election TV show. And the mayor and I were sitting in the lobby, and the city attorney came up to us, and the mayor actually asked, former Mayor Tip Traney asked the city attorney, understood that mayor was thinking about running for council. And the city attorney told us that was no problem. And the mayor and I both kind of questioned it based on our history of 16 years. And that's where we left it. It's not our job to ask the city attorney to come up with an opinion. If the city attorney did that based
Correct.
on us, so let me finish. So if the city attorney did that, that's not on me or the former mayor. That's on your city attorney. You guys were, she
No,
reports to you guys, so if she should have probably asked, should I get an opinion? But so that was just a question that we had, and like I said, full transparency. It wasn't any bug about it, but because we had written that language in 2012 and all the years prior, we thought that that was the intent of nobody being able to do more than 16 years. So.
thank you so much for clarifying that part, because when she told me, when I questioned her, which one of us on council had given her direction, because based on what you just told me, I knew exactly what you just stated, that you could not give her direction because you do not, she doesn't work for you and the former mayor. So a council member had to give her direction to go with outside counsel. And she stated that council member Orlando gave her that direction. So thank you so much for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
We are going to be very transparent, Vice Mayor. The city attorney called me and said, I need to talk to you on Monday, but I need to get a second opinion on this language. That's what happened. When I asked her, what are you talking about? She said she sent me the language. Okay, I read the language, and then I said, well, I disagree with you. However, I'll see you Monday on your attorney with your opinion. So if this is the rabbit trail you want to go down, Vice Mayor, we just solved the mystery. So no, I did not call the city attorney. She called me and said, we have an issue.
Well,
Now,
I'm so grateful that you clarified that for me. So I wanted to make sure that the public is well aware that no, I'm not going to any trail. I just ask a straight question and you give me a straight answer. That's it.
okay,
There's
so
no trail
you
going on.
satisfied there was no collusion or anything?
What I'm stating, what I'm saying is that I ask a question and you give me a straight answer, and I said thank you for clarifying at this point. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
so we close chat chapter. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Mayor, other
Mr. Goodman.
questions? Mayor, can we take a recess, please? 3 minutes. 3-minute recess.
All right, take a 3-minute recess. I'll be gaveling it in. Well, actually, do we need a motion to take a recess, or can I just do it?
You can just.
All right. You need to take a recess, council members, please do. Council members, audience, 3 minutes are up. Like to resume our meeting. Jennifer, can you go see if anyone is back there and bring them back in? Give me a quorum.
I'm on.
Councilmember Poston, our 3 minutes are up. All right, council, we have a quorum. We will continue. Our next speaker, and I'm going to apologize, I just can't read your writing, is Marin Miwentz off of Grandview Drive in Phoenix. Marin, okay. Please state your name and address. For the record, you have 3 minutes.
3435 East Grandview. I represent an area that includes Chandler. And I wanted to say that we already have an upcoming election. I don't want to waste taxpayer money. So why not put it up to the voters? The voters have supported 16 years of continuous service. The current mayor and previous mayors have been elected to both office under the current language. There are attorneys, and attorneys are going to say yes, no, maybe so. Let's put it back to the voters. So let's vote yes on resolution 5913. And basically, I want the voters to have the choice. They have voted on this. There are people up here that have been very good as far as council members. And why not allow the voters to decide whether, hey, should they be mayors? And so I think that's basically the gist of the whole situation here. If we, if we look at the politics behind this. And so a lot of people would probably vote yes on changing this language. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. And then you also filled out
Mayor,
for
I have
20. Council Vice Mayor.
Thank you. If I may say, I do agree with what you just stated, that there are great people that are sitting on the dais currently that will be available and also are qualified to run for mayor. And I agree with that. My position at this point, and if I may ask this question of you, is when you stated that it had always been 16 years, do you believe that we are disagreeing with the 16 years, or do you believe that we are asking that we take the time to do it right? That's the question I have for you today.
She is back at her seat, and thank you, Vice Mayor.
I can come up, back up.
All right, Marion, please continue.
Okay, if we don't bring it to the voters now, then it's 2026, and that doesn't allow the people that we think are good people that could be voted into the mayor position to be elected. And so, yes, this is immediate. This basically, we want to go ahead. There's a deadline, okay? We want to be responsible, and we want to be able to make sure that people can go ahead and the people will have the voice as far as who they want mayor.
Well, can I ask another question? Do you understand it to be that, as the lawyer stated it before, we don't have to do that? We can leave it the same way it was, and those people that you are thinking of are still able to run. And then we take the time then to do the whole charter rather than doing just a little bit of it. I just want to make sure that you understand that in my position, I'm not trying to stop someone from running. What I'm trying to ask is that can we continue as is so that everyone who at this time is qualified and willing to run, they can, but then we still have the time. Yes, I heard you on the idea of the money, but it will also be in another election that we will also be paying for in 2026.
So
So
what
either way,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I was going to say either way, we are saving the taxpayers' money. I just don't want any confusion on those things, on those two
Well,
things.
there's an election, and so it would not be extra money as far as the vote. And what I've heard is our deputy city attorney says there needs to be clarification. And so, you know, we can go ahead and clarify this and have it clarified. There was a panel of attorneys that talked and decided. I mean, my husband is an attorney, okay? He probably would have an opinion. There's another attorney that would have an opinion, but I think it needs to go back to the voters. You may decide as a city council to go ahead and clarify it again in 2026, but let's put it out there and clarify it.
And I heard you. Thank you so much.
Council, we are being a bit redundant with some of the same questions. Let's try to move and allow people to speak and get through everybody, and then we will have the opportunity to decide. Next up, Mr. McAllister, Ken McAllister. Ken has left the building. All right. Next up, Dave Speck, Mr. Speck. Mr. Speck, you have up to 3 minutes. State your name and address. The floor is yours.
All right. My name is David Speck, 1728 West Lark Drive, Chandler, Arizona, 85286. It is tense in here. I'm here to talk about backyard chickens. Let's do this. All right. My name is Dave. I own 3 businesses in Chandler. I know that guy said he was Chandler. I think we're all Chandler. I'm a Chandler resident, a property owner, and a board member of the Downtown Chandler Community Partnership. I'm Chandler too. So I think we're all here because we're Chandler and we care. I'm hearing a lot of kick the can, and I'm begging you guys, we're watching you. Do not kick the can. This language solves what we're talking about. I had prepared remarks, but we keep going back to let's pause, let's push it. We're watching. This language solves this issue. It solves it today. We can go later on and amend this further, but do not kick the can. All right. I know I'm usually in the funny business. Every time I'm with Kevin, you say I make fun of you, but you know what I don't like? I don't like newspapers calling Kevin Hartke illegitimate. I mean, that's my job, right? As a comedian, but calling us illegitimate, calling Boyd Dunn illegitimate, calling Jay Tibshraeny illegitimate, passes on that the next election then is illegitimate. That is the laughing stock. That's the problem, and that's what can be solved today. So that's what we're asking you to do. I mean, I support having Resolution 5913 go on the ballot. Let's vote. Let's fix this. Let's clear it up. So I've got a minute and a half left. Guys, you've got really qualified candidates ready to go. And I'm begging you, please don't make me run for mayor. All right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Go
Dave.
ahead.
Next up, and our last speaker card on this is Brooke Bill. Mr. Bill, you state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Brooke Beal. I live at 85 West Teakwood, 85248. It's kind of tough to follow that guy. So I'm here to, this is the first time tonight I'm going to be criticizing the city attorney's office. I disagree with the previous speaker. I don't think you should be rushing this. I think that if you guys understood this well enough, we wouldn't have had a 30-minute discussion before the public comments started, and there are another 40 minutes of those. Clearly, it's not well understood. I write requirements for a living. This is kind of what I do. They're not legal requirements. They're not law, but they're requirements. And you guys don't
communicate the requirements to me. I don't know that I know what you want to get done with this tonight. That's how confused I am from your comments. So for you to go forward, I think would be unfortunate. So I think we can get there, but I just don't think that you're ready yet. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one last speaker card misplaced as a comment card. Ms. Jones, please state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
Ruth Jones, 2734 East Birchwood Place, Chandler, Arizona, 8524849. Sorry. Chandler needs a hero. But as I stand here, we're in very short supply. I've heard you talk about how the city's charter is ambiguous, and yet it's not. I showed it to teenagers. Not one of them misunderstood what it said. The specialist attorney that you hired to look at it said it was clear. And one thing is very clear, the city attorney has a stake in this. So I do not believe we should be looking at her opinion on this matter, but we should defer to the specialist who handles these matters every day. As I sit here tonight, I see that you are all very concerned about getting this amendment on the ballot so that when the next election happens, certain people are available to run. But I stand here today and say we are in need of a hero. The truth is the charter was written for express purpose. The charter was written that way so that not one person or group would hold on to power for too long. And we don't need to change this charter. We need to follow it. The will of the people was put to the ballot, and the people said, this is all you get. I sit here tonight and I listen to you talk about, well, we can get 16 years and then we can take a break and we can come back and we get a 2-year break and we can come back. And yet you do not allow for this charter to stand. I raised my children to follow the law. I told them, if one of the kids breaks the law, that doesn't mean you get to break it too. You follow the law. And to use precedents as an opportunity to break this charter, which is clear and was written and approved by the citizens of this city, which has been upheld by a specialist attorney for your own political gain, is inappropriate. Chandler needs a hero. But tonight, I will settle for the members of this council to have integrity. You took an oath to uphold this charter. It's the law of our city. If you vote otherwise, you will be judged for that. I stand here tonight and look for a hero, but I'm praying for you to see that to rush this amendment so that you can stay in power and get to run again as often as you like is not the will of the people. And it is not following the charter, and it is not following the oath you took. If you truly believe the charter needs to be changed, fine. But to rush it through so that you can get on the next ballot is inappropriate.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones.
My time wasn't up. I have 6 seconds. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, that is all of the speaker cards on this. We have items, next one is resolution number 20.
No,
And
do we have any other non?
we do have some comment cards of how people, would you like me to read those? All right. We have Robert Sawyer is in support of this, moving ahead. Okay, these are sometimes confusing because it's the same one with 19, one with 20, that's the same. Sue Harrington supports this, moving ahead. That's also the second. That's 20. Joseph Russo supports this, moving ahead. Martha Russo supports this, moving ahead. Randy Reese supports this moving ahead. And those are our comment cards. Council, how would you like to proceed? We've had lots of conversation. We've listened to our community members who've come here to share.
Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
So a lot of good discussion tonight. Early in my council career, I had the privilege of speaking with several of the original charter authors, to include former council member Inez Knowles, former Mayor Coy Payne, about the thoughts of why a charter. They expressed a strong desire for the residents of Chandler through their elected officials to guide them the development of Chandler rather than having the state. That's why we have a charter. We voted for that so that we control what's going to happen in our own community. That's been extremely successful over the many years. In 1972, the residents voted, as we heard earlier, that they want term limits. 53 years ago, we have to have term limits. Originally, term limits, as we talked about earlier, were 2 terms for council, 2 terms for mayor, same as we have today. One proviso, we changed it, as we heard earlier, to 2 4-year terms for mayor. And in that language at that time, they did talk about 12 consecutive years. Very simple. 4, 4, 2, 2. Pretty simple. With conversation with all former mayors like Jerry Brooks, Jim Patterson, Kenny Thomas, all indicated the intent of the voters was to allow for fresh ideas as for term limits, but to have an opportunity for a mayor, and you've done it well, Boyd Dunn's done it well, Coy Payne's done it well, Jason Strain's done it well, to represent us not only at the MAG level, but at the state level. And then on those representations, it was to advocate on behalf of Chandler residents. That's where the experience came in. It was also to help us for revenue streams, for our public safety, our transportation, even our parks and recreation. Experience counts. They advocate on behalf of us. The major change that occurred in 1997, again, as we talked about, made it 16 consecutive years. For some reason, as a former council member Human said, that was taken out. It was pretty simple language. 8 years, 8 years, you're done. I don't know why that was changed. I can only assume that the 4 or 5 or 6 city attorneys we had since then felt it was adequate and was clear enough. Like we talked about having mayors, we talked about this in the past. So why now? That keeps hearing the question. And the reality is this, folks. You heard it tonight. It's ambiguous. There's a lot of attorneys out there. No offense to my fellow attorneys. Some are very expensive. There's residents out there, as we heard tonight, that are upset that potentially this mayor and all the other mayors might be illegal. If I'm a developer and I lost a vote 4-3, and this mayor was against me, maybe I have a lawsuit, because if I could argue it was illegitimate. We have a member, we're already being sued now. We just served notice tonight that we're being sued. We spent a lot of money so far on this attorney, outside attorney. You were earlier agreed that this could be open for a lot of interpretations. Why now? It's not about me. I said this before and I'll say it again. I served 8 years. I abided by the rules. Got off, served 8 years, got off, serving my 6th term. I'll abide by the rules. But if they're ambiguous, regardless of whether I run, okay, I can walk away tomorrow. I still got to take the garbage out Wednesday night. I still got to take it out Friday morning. I still got grandkids that love me. That's not about me. It's about saving taxpayer dollars. Because I could see the lawsuits rolling in. Again, case in point, we got one tonight. How many more are coming in? How many more will challenge the mayor? So the reality is we do need experience. The Chandler residents have said for 53 years, we like this model. It's been successful. Look at us. We have a thriving community here. Thriving. Why? New ideas, experience. Been a combination. We've had council members go to other offices because of the experience they gained here, and they're being successful. So let's not discount the experience. Let's not discount the fact that we're not asking for term limits or extension of term limits, which was done 3 times unsuccessfully. So the voters know what they're doing. That's the only reason why we're bringing this forward. I don't want any more lawsuits. We just, literally, folks, we just found this out last week. Last week, that we have a potential issue here. So we have until June 9th, correct?
That's correct. Councilmember Orlando, through the mayor. The deadline to submit ballot language is June 9th.
Okay. I don't want to spend any more taxpayer dollars. It costs us $475,000 to run an election. And here's the kicker, folks. We have other people that will be having an election that same day, November 4th. It'll reduce our cost. Again, taxpayer dollars reducing our cost because the school district's doing it, Maricopa's doing it, and other entities are doing it. So we can reduce our cost. That's why it makes sense now. Now, in deference, I am willing to, if the mayor's got a concern about this, and again, I'm not a legal attorney, it looks good to me, but I'm willing to postpone this to June 9th. Is that the latest we could do this, or should we do it earlier?
Councilmember Orlando, that is the latest. We'd have to get them the ballot language by midnight that night.
So
Could
Get
we,
a call.
could we possibly do it before June 9th, so that way we can do the same thing but have a special meeting specifically about it, which will then allow, like, not June 9th, but like maybe like June, I'm not looking at my calendar, I'm gonna pull it up, like June 6th or June 5th, like on a Friday or a Thursday in between that time, and we can do another roundabout. And if we want to pull some people together, we can do that. That gives a little bit more time. What can we look at some dates now, or can we get back, or can they get back with us and get some dates set this week, or we just have to do it right now?
Councilmember Harris, you can call a special meeting. I don't know that you have to call it specific date.
Can we work with Mayor? Can we work with, you normally call the executive meetings? Can we work with you to get a date together between now and whatever additional things we want to do between now and, I would say, before June 6th or before June 5th, so that way if there's any additional questions that we need to have, it'll be all set and ready to go if there is any additional language.
Mayor.
So hang on there, Vice Mayor. So let's see where this still goes. There's other people that I think want to talk, and if it's the will of council to do that, certainly we can. But we'll see where.
Okay.
So far, only Councilmember Orlando has pretty much spoken.
Okay.
So that's my proposal. We could work on a date, and we could move this. Again, I think we discussed everything. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there we can discuss, and if we're hooked up on the language, then I think it behooves us to make sure it's correct. Because I don't want to be here a year from now and say, gee, this language has a hole in it, and we have more lawsuits.
I saw Vice Mayor commented, then I saw Councilmember Hawkins. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. One of the questions I was going to ask, and Councilmember Orlando just explained himself, is what is the direction and what is it that he was trying to accomplish? Because I've heard Councilmember Harris is asking for dates and different things like that. So I wanted to be clear. Are we trying to reschedule something right here, right now? And I just heard him make sure that that we were going to wait for comment before we we go forward with anything. But my comment at this time is, as a member, I've lived here in Chandler for 39 years, and Councilmember Orlando, I have voted for in the past when he ran. Councilmember Human, have I voted for in the past? I have voted for Councilmember Lopez in the past, and other council members that have run for city council. When I came to this council 5 years ago, the desire was to serve the people of Chandler because there is an integral love in me for this city to see us continue to thrive but not going backward. Do I mean that this position that we are taking tonight will take us backward? Absolutely not. I think it's moving us forward. But in my understanding of things, there is the time, the right time to do the right thing all the time. And in order for us to move forward at the right time to do this, I believe we need enough time to make it happen. I'm using the word time all the time because that's what it is of the essence. And no one, and I personally, I don't think that I'm arguing the fact that we do not need to change this language and we do not need to remove the ambiguity. That is never the point here for me personally. But what I am saying is that should we give the impression that we are rushing something like 1 o'clock in the morning, kind of like sitting around trying to vote when we know nobody's going to be present? Is that same sentiment is out there? So the idea that when Councilmember Orlando just spoke about all the things, the litigations and everything else that could happen, and I'm sitting here baffled thinking that who has sent in a lawsuit tonight, because I have not heard. As a council member, I have not been briefed on that, and now we're discussing something like that on the dais. I'm concerned about that. I just texted the city manager. He's telling me he's not aware of anything like that. And so for us to be sitting here and hearing that there's a lawsuit against the city for precedence and things like that, put me into a position to ask, what is it that we were thinking when we thought that this was perfectly okay for us to throw it out into the media and into everywhere without having our heads screwed on the right way. So I agree with Councilmember Orlando. It needs to be fixed. And we all need to put our heads together and get it fixed. So if extended time is going to give us a minute to even think about it, revisit it, talking to more lawyers or whoever else we need to talk to before the 9th of June, that is where I stand. And so I'm wrapping it up right now with the whole premise of the fact that I don't think none of us on the dais currently, including the mayor, is saying that we shouldn't clean this thing up and we should not make sure that we have clarity on it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hawkins.
Thank you, Mayor. So 2 things. I do want to say thank you for everybody coming out tonight and showing the support. I agree this needs fixing. The question is when, right? But I feel like the common thing that I'm not hearing is the community input. That seems to be missing. And I feel like the amount of people that are in this room underscores that people want to be heard. They want that input. So I do have a concern that we're kind of lacking some transparency and those historical precedents where we have included comments and ways to form and create that verbiage of what they want their city to look like. Yes, we have our council, our attorneys to make sure that it's valid and that it works within the law. But really, we want the voice of our community. And so I appreciate, again, that everybody came out to provide that input tonight. Secondly, I was curious if you could answer something for me, Ton. With this amendment, how does that look? It's not going to be retroactive. It doesn't affect anything for current mayor in place, correct? It would just be clarification for moving forward.
Councilmember Hawkins, that's correct.
Anything else? Okay. I'd like to hear from people who haven't spoken before I come back to people that have. On my right, Councilmember Encinas, Councilmember Poston.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, as Councilmember Hawkins has stated, I want to thank you guys all so much for engaging here with us tonight. Bringing us your voices is what we are here to do and here to listen, to say, as well as Councilmember Hawkins mentioned about having that community input is important. And that input has been provided for decades. This language has been carried over for decades, numerous councils, and repeatedly approved by the voters. And I think it is important that we take it back to the voters. If we do need some time, as Councilmember Orlando was stating, I'm open to that recommendation as well, just to make sure we are 100%. And then again, taking it, we are not making the decision. We are taking it straight to you guys to make that decision and that vote and tell us what you want to be done. That's my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Poston.
Quick question. This doesn't, City Attorney, this doesn't need 2 readings, does it?
Councilmember Poston, this does not need 2 readings. No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think people have spoken very articulately, and I certainly appreciate seeing a room full of people. And I will say the one good thing that I know is coming out of this is that a multitude of people have now read our city charter and have a good understanding of it. So that's a good thing. And they understand that it's really our guiding documents, our bylaws, our constitution, and it's very important. I also think that we as a council need to be willing to address this. We do have a bond election coming, in addition to the idea that that is already paid for, and we have the ability to have pair up with other people to make it a little less expensive, makes it important for us to put this on that November election. And I have concerns that if voters see us sitting on our hands and waiting, that it looks like we're not willing to do hard things. And I think bringing this to the voters is the right thing to do. We're asking you, the voters, the residents, to confirm that you still believe in the practices that we have had for more than 50 years and have voted on over and over and over again. So in addition to that, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the committee. There's nothing that precludes the committee from looking at the entire charter, including all of this. So I liked what a couple of people said, that, hey, we can look at this. If there is a concern about that, we can clean up the language a little bit in 2026 as well. Both of those elections won't cost the taxpayers extra money. And, you know, I understand the vice mayor's upset, but I saw notice of that lawsuit as well. And I don't want to sit here for a year wondering why we're sitting around getting lawsuits instead of taking action.
Thank you. Council Maioli, I too want to thank everyone for being here. And, you know, I know a month ago we met and talked about this election and talked about adding council amendments, and there was great reluctance on most of council from doing that, many of which are certainly wanting to add this. And I understand it's apples and oranges. I agree with that, but I think our big concern then was a concern that we didn't want to, we thought that would be detrimental to the bond. And again, that still sticks with me, as that's what council overwhelmingly said at that time. So I also agree with you. I would hope we would do both. If this council decides to move ahead with this, that you all will get your names into me so we can proceed with a council revision committee. And I do agree that those can be independent or go on at the same time. As I mentioned, I'm willing to start that beginning of June. And from what I've heard from you all, you're willing to do the same. So I'm glad to hear that. Council, what I guess now is there a motion to move forward, or is there a motion to refer this to, hang on a second, to postpone this conversation to a certain day and then make that decision then. I do know on June 9th, we will be meeting here already. It is a study session work meeting, so we have a council study session. If councils wish and if there's enough votes to move it earlier than then we can, but I think midnight, June 9th is our deadline for this. So council, how would you like to proceed?
Mayor,
Councilmember Orlando.
I'd like to move resolution number 5913, ordering and calling a special election for the submission of proposal amendments to the city charter regarding the eligibility of persons to serve consecutive terms as mayor and council, with the proviso that staff comes back to us for final language approval by June 9th. And call a special meeting, I should say, so that we could look at the final language.
So, so you're asking that we resume, or you're asking that?
I move that we call for a special election tonight and come back by June 9th, sorry,
Special meeting.
special meeting, sorry. Come back with a special meeting
Okay,
by June 9th with the language.
that's what confused me when you
And
said
then,
election.
and then we could vote finally on the language that we feel would keep us out of litigation.
So there is a motion to
Call the special election.
call a special meeting. Thank you. So in essence, you want to postpone this
No.
decision?
No, what I'm saying is, the resolution 593, call for a special election for the submission of proposal amendments to the city charter regarding the eligibility of persons to serve consecutive terms as mayor and council. It's two separate things. I'm calling for the election, the special election, and then correlated to that, I'm asking staff to come back to us with a special meeting to finalize the language. We'll vote on that. So that's what I'm asking.
So you're asking us to put this on the ballot, yet we are not certain of what the language is.
That's correct. And you could always withdraw it if we have to.
Mayor,
Well, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I have a question to clarify before I can.
Hang on, there's a motion on the floor. I'm waiting to hear, is there a second before we continue with conversation?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Vice Mayor.
I want Councilmember Orlando to reiterate, please, what he just stated, because it was my understanding when he was talking earlier, he said he wanted to give us time to go back and look at this and then have a special meeting among ourselves to discuss it before we bring it back before June 9th. So now I'm hearing that we are voting on what's on the agenda right now. Is that correct? Or am I the one who's not understanding what he's saying?
Is that me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, I meant the language. That was my concern, the language. That was what the issue was, that the mayor brought the language, several of us in there discussion about it. But I never said anything about not moving forward with the special election. If I did, I misspoke.
I'd like to ask.
Yeah, that was my understanding, that we were going to go back with waiting to get all the information and everything, redact or fix everything, look at it, have another discussion among us again, and then come back with it to vote on it. Not that voting on it tonight.
City Attorney, I have a question. So Councilmember Orlando is asking us to further and to call to take this language to the ballot without having explicit language. I'd like a weigh-in on that.
Mayor?
I'm asking the attorney for an opinion. Thank you.
Mayor, what it sounds like is that we're talking about splitting the question and voting only, and so the motion is to split the question into two questions, one being calling the special election and the other one being the language for the charter amendment. The issue, though, I would let you know, the special election has been called for the bond election.
Yes.
So this was to propose a special election to run concurrently. I mean, there is a special election already that has been voted through, and that is the bond election. This election for amendment to the charter would be running concurrently, would go to that election, would run concurrently with the general election. But there already is a special election that has been called for the bond election. So it's not really necessary. My recommendation is to move to table. If you want to continue this to a special meeting, you can move to table this, and it will go to the next meeting that is scheduled, you could then move to have a special meeting put onto or direct staff to put a special meeting on the calendar, or it would automatically go to the June 9th meeting, and then you would need a motion to take it off the table and further discuss it.
But the June 9th meeting is just a study session, so there would need to be actually to call a council meeting at that, which we're capable of doing. But I was struggling with your language of calling a special election because one has already been called.
Fair enough. But I think the key here is you're adding charter amendments to the special election. That's what we're doing here. That's the motion, to add charter language to that special election. That's all we're saying. The actual language we could bring back and then vote on that as a consent, saying that's the language we want to go to the ballot.
You could split the question. You could move to split the question and have a motion to present a charter amendment with no, you wouldn't have any language though. It would, if the charter amendment didn't go anywhere, you're left with calling a special election on a charter amendment blank.
Okay.
That's my concern.
All right. So we'll redo this again. Thank you.
So if you change it, we'll also need the second to agree. Would you like to amend?
Do you agree to split this?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me be clear what we're doing here, okay, City Attorney? I'm moving to resolution number 5913, ordering to call a special election for submission of proposed amendments to the city charter regarding eligibility of persons to serve consecutive terms as mayor and council member. Correct?
And then I'm not following, because if you're going to split the question and you're not going to move to table resolution 5913 to take it to a special
We have
meeting?
to table.
No, you just said I could split the question.
No, I recommended you. Sorry, let me rephrase it then. The recommendation is to move to table the resolution so that you can then get to another meeting where you want to be. It sounds like. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Councilmember Orlando.
Okay, look, I just need the legal advice.
Yeah.
So I heard two different things, but let's just do this. I want to move this along. So I move to table this resolution 5913. Are we sure June 9th is enough time? And we can put it early enough in the day to make this happen?
Councilmember Orlando, we just have to have the language to the county no later than midnight on June 9th.
Okay. I know do we have to do state date specific? Or we can say by June 9th?
Councilmember Orlando, you do not have to state a date specific. You can just move to table that resolution 5913, and then it will go to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Or a special meeting.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to do this. I move to table this to a special meeting on June 9th. But we also want to have enough, or earlier, if we could get everyone in there. Let me be very clear. Table by June 9th or earlier, if we get a quorum, so that we could address this issue. Okay? I got a thumbs up. All right.
Good.
Okay, so there is now
Thank you.
a motion on the floor to table this.
I second that, Mayor.
Hang on one
All right,
second.
I
I'm
think
trying
there's
for
a procedure. I
clarification.
think
You're not
Mayor-
recognized. Let me
I know, but they
clear it
have
up.
to withdraw their first motion before we.
They
we
did.
Okay.
They did. So I just want to know what we're voting on. So there was a motion to move this to a future date, and then we need to call that as well. So either on June 9th or before. Is that good enough to leave it the way it is, or I just want to make sure we are knowing what we're doing here.
Mayor, that is good enough. It will be tabled. The motion is not debatable. If it's been seconded, then there will be a vote on that. If it doesn't pass, then the resolution continues to be pending, but it can be tabled if the motion passes, and it will go to the next meeting of June 9th, or if another meeting is scheduled to be earlier, then it would go to that based on the verbiage of the motion by Councilmember Orlando.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Orlando. I heard a second by Vice Mayor. All right. This is now back to debatable or commentable because we have a motion and a second in place, correct?
Mayor, motions to table are not debatable.
Oh,
According to council
very
rules.
good. So we just need, thank you. So we just need to vote this, yes or no. Okay, thank you. Council, this is, as mentioned, there's no further conversation. Please vote.
Vice Mayor Ellis,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
All right. Okay, 19 is done. We now have item number 20 to discuss. Correct, Council? All right. Item number 20 has to do, again, with another resolution to amend the charter related to the appointment and removal item, not to remove the city manager, but language that discusses the appointment and removal of city manager. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm making sure that this clicker's still working, and yep, there's the PowerPoint presentation. We are here to discuss Resolution 5914. This is regarding this Chandler City Charter under Article 3, Sections 3.01 and 3.02. This is the current language of those two sections. They are concerning the city manager, appointment, compensation, qualifications. 3.02 is the removal. As adopted in 1965, the Chandler City Charter provides that the city manager shall be appointed for an indefinite term and upon his removal will receive 2 months severance pay. These provisions of the charter are not aligned with the practice of the city of Chandler or any other Arizona city or town, which is for the city council to negotiate the terms of an employment contract with the appointed manager, including severance upon termination of the contract. Fixing the charter helps align with the wishes of council and with how the city manager contract has been handled historically. The proposed charter amendments in Resolution 5914 are set forth here in the slide. These would clarify that the city council may contract with its appointed city manager on such terms as the council and the manager agree. The proposed amendment also brings the provision regarding appointment of the city manager in line with the provisions for other appointed officers of the city, as well as the current widely accepted practice of entering into employment contracts for appointed officers. I'll leave up the language of the proposed amendment. Any questions?
Council, any questions for City Attorney? And
Yeah.
leave that up for a little bit here too.
Mayor.
Councilmember Harris.
I'm just gonna ask you, like, how did we get to this particular question? Just because I want to know, is it gonna help me? Because talk to us a little bit about it.
We had 4 members of the council that wanted to have a resolution brought forward for consideration. And so the resolution was drafted by the city attorney's office because the council had asked for that. And this is the language that was presented in order to bring it into alignment with the wishes of where we think, this aligns with the contract of our city manager, and historically with the contracts of city managers. So, and I'll say that there are two other, we have other charter language for city attorney, for city clerk that are at the pleasure of the council. That at the pleasure language is with other positions.
So is the city manager's current contract in conjunction with the old language or the new language?
No.
The city manager's, Councilmember Harris, the city manager's current contract is not in alignment with the current language of the charter. It would be in alignment with the language proposed in this amendment.
So even right now today, is the city manager contract aligned with the old language?
No.
Okay. And the city manager job is what?
Councilmember Harris, the city manager's job is to manage all operations of the city.
And his language for his contract has to be in alignment with the charter, correct?
Ideally, that's correct, Councilmember Harris.
And how has his contract or previous contracts been unaligned through these previous years if his job is to be aligned?
Councilmember Harris, I am not aware of all the history of the contracts, and I cannot speak to how, in the past and the alignment. I'm sorry.
Okay. So who prepares his contract for us?
I also was not privy to those negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
And it's my understanding that this language is 72, or well, maybe, or do you know that it's old? And yeah,
65.
Yeah.
Mayor in 1965.
Great. And this is, so previous councils have looked at this, and since then have written out contracts with city managers when this deviated, I'm assuming, because I don't know how long we've written contracts as opposed to this particular language that, or contracts that deviated with it. I think previous council even released a city manager, or several, at least one, but that were different. So but it's been the contract that has been the rule of the law with this. Even when a previous city manager was released, it was the contract and not the language here that prevailed. Or you might not be privy to that too. I'm sorry.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm not privy to that.
Okay, very good. So I guess my point is, again, is that we've had contracts with city managers, and that has been the rule of, and in a dispute, it's a contract between the city manager and council, who have signed off on these every time. That has been the rule of the law on this. So I guess I'm just questioning. I understand there's a dichotomy, but this too is like other charter amendments to me that we need to do and throw to a committee. But we'll see where council wants to go with this one.
Mayor.
Comments before we invite comments?
No, let's do comments.
I saw you reaching before he said, so.
This has been a very frustrating process, all of it, I think. And in discussions with the city attorney, the comments that she had made to me was, it's not good when the city charter is out of alignment. And this is one of those issues where it's very clear out of alignment. And just because we've done it that way before doesn't make it right. We've all sworn an oath to the charter. We have sworn an oath to uphold it. Our city staff is actually, quite frankly, responsible for making sure that we are in alignment with the charter. So when we find that we are out of alignment with the charter, just because we've done it this way before, And maybe nobody noticed before, and that's fair. It hadn't been brought up as an issue before, but it's now an issue before us that we understand. And I think that we are not doing the right thing by the voters if we don't address this particular issue. And I agree with you. You said exactly what you said was, we have always followed the that contract. And all this is doing, unless someone has a difference of opinion, but all this is doing is making sure that our charter is in alignment with the contract. It seems pretty cut and dried to me. I don't know if there are opportunities. I can't imagine there are opportunities that we get to pick and choose which items in the charter we follow and which we don't. So I think it's important that we move forward with this. If there is other discussion tonight where people have the same discomfort with this item, the language of this item, that I would be willing to table it to be in conjunction with the other discussion that we're having. But I am in no way in agreement that we shouldn't move forward on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Additional comments?
Yeah,
Or we invite the public?
You know what? Let the public go ahead. I'll say my comments at the end.
Okay. All right. First one up is Ken McAllister. Is Ken here yet? No. Again, Marion, who spoke on the previous one, are you still here? No. Okay. Dwayne Lidman.
Dwayne Lidman, 2301 West Palomino Drive, Chandler. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I've read Resolution 5914 along with Exhibits A and B, and I think that we need to move forward this. You need to be able to negotiate contracts, and so you can attract and retain good employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lidman. Will Bullock. Is Will still here? Okay. Lisa Askey. Yeah.
I would agree that this language is out of date. It's not in alignment. Everything that Council Member Poston said, I think that this should go forward to accommodate a proper statement and contract for the city manager. But I'd also like to emphasize that everything that was said about following the charter should be applied to the previous conversation that we just had about the other amendment. But I do agree on this one. Thank you.
Council, all I have left are comment cards, not speaker cards.
Mayor, just real quick. Good question. If we follow this language, what does that mean, City Attorney?
Councilmember Orlando, if your question is if we follow the
Current chart, like,
current language, right?
yes.
Okay. Well, it doesn't align with the city manager's contract, but that's really it. This is to bring it into alignment. If you do not amend, I mean, if this resolution doesn't go forward and the charter's not amended,
Then we would have to restructure the city manager's contract and rely to the language, correct? To the charter. Correct?
That's incorrect, Councilmember Orlando, because it would be what up to, the council could do that, but whether you have to is a different question. Because the opinion is not that it's not an opinion that it's in violation. It's an opinion that it's not in alignment.
I guess I beg to differ a little bit there because I'm promised to uphold the charter, and there's a provision in the charter. If I don't uphold the charter, I could be terminated as an officer. So I don't think I want to be terminated as an officer on this dais because we're going to deviate and say, gee, it's okay to ignore the charter. It's okay. Otherwise, I got to restructure the contract make an indefinite contract and 2 month severance. I don't think our current city manager's family is going to enjoy that. And I know we would never recruit or retain anybody else. So with that, Mayor, I move resolution number, okay, we could,
Mayor, thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Ton, you said that his current contract is not in violation or is not against our contract that we have with him right now, is not against the current charter?
Councilmember Harris, my point was that there's a difference between it being not aligned and being in violation.
Can you explain the difference?
The difference is, so the language, for example, it states currently that the city manager will receive 2 months severance. An agreement that provides him more than 2 months, but not less than 2 months, may not be in violation, but it's not in alignment. If you look at it, depending on your reading. Now we're getting into attorney reading, but this is, as far as we have presented this as it's not in alignment. If council or a council member wants an opinion on whether it's in violation, I would rather defer to a time when we could provide that in an attorney-client privilege setting. We can now analyze it and give you that kind of advice. Whether or not the agreement would hold up in court based on the language of the charter currently remains an open question.
Ton, that sounds very confusing that we're here to talk about the city attorney's contract and talk about this specific area about the charter. And we're talking about getting this aligned. And we're saying that he's technically not aligned, but he's not in violation. And I don't understand the difference between an alignment and a violation. To me, it's a violation because his contract says 6 months of severance. The charter says only 2 months of severance for the city manager. To me, those are two different distinctive conversations. That is 6 months of severance. The charter says 2 months of severance. We are not just out of alignment. We are in violation, direct violation of the charter. And if we pull the language up right now, it'll say city manager is 2 months of severance. And that's what it is. So I just kind of want to make sure that we stay clear about what we're talking about, because we're just here to make sure we keep the facts straight. The other aspect of the contract that is in direct violation is we signed a 2-year contract, but the charter says it's an indefinite contract unless council decides to move different. Now, there's some employment language in there, but it's definitely showing that his contract is supposed to be indefinite. The city manager's office contract should be indefinite. And so the language here that we're talking about, it gives council more flexibility. But currently right now, even today in this sitting meeting right now, he's in direct violation of the charter. And I don't understand how we can confuse the two between alignment and violation. And everyone is talking about the charter, and we're looking at the charter. There's no confusion about what this is. So I just kind of think we need to make sure that we pay our city manager a healthy amount of money to make sure that he stays in alignment with the charter. And if council presents a document for him to sign that's out of alignment, then he willfully signs, then he violates what he was put here to do, which was follow the charter. And that's what I'm laying out. That's what I'm sharing with you today. And so every day that he sits on this as a city manager and his contract is not aligned, and he was an assistant city manager before, and 4 to 5 years as a city manager, regardless of what council asks him to do, that's still a violation. And he should know better than that, because it says it very clear. So we brought this forward, and now we know that his contract is out of alignment, and he now knows that it's out of alignment, but he been knowing that it's out of alignment. So maybe this is a different conversation for a different day, but I am If I'm paying a person $400,000 a year, at least he can get what his contract says in the description right. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor. Mayor. Councilmember Orlando.
Mayor,
Councilmember Orlando, then Vice Mayor.
Mayor,
thank you.
yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor, appreciate it. I move to approve resolution number 5914, ordering and calling special.
I do have one more speaker card.
Okay, I can still make a motion, Mayor,
True.
right? I can still do that, I believe. Although I don't know what to believe anymore after tonight, so. Resolution 5914, ordering and calling a special election for the submission of proposal amendments to the city charter regarding appointment and removal of the city manager.
I second.
There's a motion and a second, and I would like to allow our speaker to speak, filled out a comment card rather than a speaker card. Ms. Jones. You have up to 3 minutes to share your comments.
No problem. You already know where I live. I'm going to try and be a little less passionate this time, but also put something in front of you that needs to be said. And I appreciate the comments of some of you tonight and your passion in following the charter. That is what we're here about. But I think there's something you need to be very careful about as you consider this particular amendment. In the past, when the charter wasn't followed, the people that should make sure the charter is followed, the people you pay a lot of money to get that done, are our city manager, our city attorney, and our city clerk. In the last 4 years alone, our city manager has received a 35% increase in his salary, when in fact, he wasn't advising you and wasn't making sure that the charter was followed. So if you put yourselves in a position where you set his salary and he works at the behest of you, you put yourself in grave jeopardy. That's why the charter set forth the guidelines for him, was to keep you protected. So by allowing you to be the ones who set his salary and set the terms, you can give him a golden parachute, for example. You can continue to raise his salary at an exorbitant rate that does not match what is going on in the rest of the world with the rest of the people out there. I don't know anybody who's gotten a 35% salary increase in 4 years, especially when they're not doing their job and they are not making sure that our charter is followed. That's what we pay them for. That's what we pay all the city employees for. But the 3 I mentioned are the ones that have the most onus to do so. So I would urge you with caution to make sure that you are not, when you say that it's at the behest of the council, that you are not putting yourselves in a position where you have the appearance of evil. You continue to raise the salary and he continues to ignore the charter. I'm asking you, believe it or not, to protect yourselves. And I'm asking you to be aware that there is a conflict that for the average person in the city doesn't look very good. To quote someone I know, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, most likely it is a duck. So you need to be careful that you protect yourselves. Maybe we do need to amend this, but I would be very careful about saying at the behest of the council. Thank you.
Council, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any additional comments before we vote? All right, council, please vote.
Vice Mayor Ellis?
I had a question, Mayor. So, okay.
We've all got our comment ready to vote, so
All right, go ahead, please.
we're waiting on you.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ellis, was that a yes vote?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Well, council, we're here. We have 3 unscheduled public appearance cards. And again, I will call them out in the order that they've come in. To those who desire to speak unscheduled, we cannot interact with you. You have up to 3 minutes to share your comments. We will not interact like as we've done with these previous ones. First up, Mr. Beal. As before, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brooke Beal. I live at 85 West Teakwood Place, Chandler. So late last year, I sent an email requesting some information from SRP, and they replied back. And I forwarded that email to all of you, to the city council, the members who were on the city council at the time, but you all received that. I also sent it, I believe, to the city attorney's office and to members of the police department. Basically, the content of that letter, that email says that e-bikes are prohibited on the Consolidated Canal in Chandler, Arizona, actually in all of any of the SRP canals. So I attended the March 27th council meeting, and I was opposed to the approval of your request for a special permit. On April the 5th, I attended the annual ride. There were about a half a dozen bicycle officers there. There were about a half a dozen e-bikes that were there. Mayor, you spoke, wishing everyone to have a safe ride. And then you handed the microphone to someone you said you don't know their name. This is what you told me tonight. You handed the microphone to some woman and you don't know who she is. And she said, she spoke into the microphone and she told everyone there that you can ride on the canal as long as you're not in power mode, as long as the power is off. I have it on, I have that recorded. So you then did not correct her. You allowed that statement to stand. So SRP would like to have the city attorney contact them to speak to them. They have concerns that you don't understand what no e-bikes on the canal means. So if you would be so kind as to give them a call, I would appreciate it. And then after that, what I would like to have you do is to put together some information to specifically address what e-bikes are allowed and not allowed on the canal. I don't think that's too much to ask. These guys who are riding on their e-bikes on the canal, it's a violation of federal law. It's 6 months in jail, $5,000 fine. Can also be treated as a state criminal offense, a month in jail. Also could be treated under 31(6)(c) of the Chandler ordinance. So I would like to have you respond to those and explain where the position is of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Beal.
Yeah, thank you.
Point of personal privilege is I stated I did not recall the name of the person and nothing more and nothing less.
Mayor.
Yeah, Councilmember Harris.
City Attorney, is it possible that you can look into the conversation between SRP with their team and our team so we can get some clarity with that relationship and that partnership?
Yes, Councilmember Harris, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Next up for unscheduled public appearances, Alan James. I can't do it either, sir, but please state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes to share your thoughts or concerns. We cannot engage you, but we listen.
Can do. Alan James, I'm a Merida, 727 West Summit Place, 85226. Quick shout out, congratulations to any of the new wolf pack that graduated tonight from CHS. A few of us did it ourselves last century. Side note, although I wasn't here for this evening's agenda, is one thing I did notice, and I didn't notice anybody making a comment about it. I'm not sure what her reason was for calling out, but I believe with the two things that were addressed, the one individual that needed to be here the most tonight was not. and Ton was the one left having to answer for it. Kelly Schwab, I don't know where she was, what kept her away, but I'm sure she would have had a lot to say or would have had more clear answers. At least that's what I would think would be the story. What brings me here tonight is I've been a member of the Mission Valley neighborhood since 1995. In 1995, we weren't an HOA. We still aren't. But since 1995, especially in the last 10 years, sales of homes and everything else, there have been people that have moved into the neighborhood that I have met for all the wrong reasons. And that's right up to the point of walking out the front door, stopping them in my street, because we have 2 speed bumps entering from the Alma School side. I'm not sure if the maps got there in front of you, but the first 2 to the furthest part of the east. Between me and a friend that both work construction, his transient, and me doing it, what we found was a difference that was no less than 31% between the one in front of my house, the one next, versus the rest of the neighborhood. As such, on different dates here, actually, October 3rd, 2023, verified it with Mesa Unified School Buses, because I called them because of the bus number 102 that went racing by the house. By the time I got to the person I needed to speak to, they were like, "Oh yeah, we show them their GPS." I said, "Yeah, they just went down the street. Could you tell me what their highest speed has been in the last like 7 minutes? You tell me who wants to know their child's on board a bus doing 40 through a neighborhood that doesn't have straight streets. Everything's curved." Next was October 20th, 2023, U.S. Mail, young guy that I turned around and he went jumping over because he had enough speed. He jumped the mail vehicle, walked out in the street as he was coming back, filming him. And he goes, "Oh, if this is about the post offices being broke into, the mail." I said, no. I'd like to know what need you have to be coming into here at such a great speed. Your vehicle actually jumped off the bump in front of my house. And I say bump, not meaning speed bump, because it's anything but. If I enter my street from the far end, I drive an F350. If I'm doing better than 10 miles an hour, my rear end on my truck fishtails. I barely feel it driving over the 2 that approach my house. There's a reason why every Friday night and Saturday night and every day after work, there are cars zooming through.
Thank
I
you, Mr.
understand this.
Emmerich.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Didn't even
City
should have saved
Manager.
it for the high school.
Yes, sir. City Manager, can you have traffic get with Mr. Emmerich and direct his complaint and see what we can do?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
Can you do me a favor, Mr. Wright? Would you save that phone call, because Mr. Wong covered that with me, and I'm sure of those signatures I need for the people that are 300 feet to that side of that speed bump. They're the ones that are most likely to enter the neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. And our last unscheduled public speaker is Michael Harrington. Mr. Harrington, you still here? Mr. Harrington is not here. All right. Long night, Council. We're up to current events. I've got a few I'd like to share. Last Saturday, we celebrated the grand reopening of Tumbleweed Recreation Center. The expansion adds 11,000 square feet of purposely designed space, including an event hall, game area, classrooms, a craft studio, a fitness room, and even a mini library, all aimed at enhancing community engagement and supporting multi-generational programming. Big thanks to all who was owed of Team Chandler that contributed to the project. City Manager Josh Wright, Don Lang, John Sefton, Erica Berry, our TRC staff who will activate the space, as well as my council colleagues, those who came and those who have been championing this since its inception. And perhaps most importantly, we want to thank our Chandler residents for bringing this project to life. This project was funded as part of our last bond election, and we're excited to be able to deliver this project to our community. Secondly, I had the opportunity to represent Chandler in Germany as part of the German-American Semiconductor City Network. This is a 3-year partnership between German and American cities that have significant semiconductor investments to connect, share ideas and experiences, and most importantly, identify strategies and best practices that can be implemented in our respective communities. We found a very willing audience that we shared a lot of great information back and forth, and Micah Miranda was on spot in terms of recognizing future opportunities and building relationships between our communities. And we're really excited to see where this goes. Many of these folks, several of these folks will be back in Phoenix for Semicon, the semiconductor conference that its first time will be in Phoenix in October. Other members of our team included Ryan Peters, Strategic Initiatives Director. As I mentioned, Micah Miranda, our Economic Development Director, John Knudsen, Public Works, as well as Neo Kapke from ASU Development, and Carla, what is Carla's last name again? Turan? Ah, I knew I was going to mix it up. Amazing representative talking about power and SRP. So together we put together an amazing team that did great work in Germany. Lastly, for me, I do want to wish a very exciting and well-deserved congratulations to our Chandler seniors. It's graduation season, and whether our seniors are off to college, trade school, the military, the workforce, or exploring another path, we have no doubt that their futures are bright. I don't know whether you caught it, but Chandler Unified School District was recently rated the top school district in the state of Arizona. So to all of our students, to all of our teachers, to all administrators, happy summer break. Councilmember Encinas.
Thank you, Mayor. You stole my final announcement. I did also want to congratulate all the seniors of the class of 2005. We do have one of the top school districts in the country. I'm a product of that, and it's a great institution to be a part of, and I'm excited for these students to continue on their education. I do want to give a special shout out to some of my cousins. We have a house divided. We have some Hamilton Huskies, and we also have some Chandler Wolves out there. I'm a Wolves, let's go. To Ariana Asensio and Flower Martinez, I want to congratulate them and wish them the best in their future here in Chandler. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Poston.
I'll keep it short and sweet. May is Small Business Month. Shop local, shop Chandler.
Wow, short and sweet. Councilmember Orlando.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Poston will be representing us on Memorial Day. Thank you very much. For those out there, I have a little saying I've always said that to remind us just what this really means. Armed Forces Day are for those that are still in uniform. Veterans Day, like myself, Councilmember Harris, are those of us that hung up our uniform. Memorial Day are those that didn't make it out of their uniform. So please remember that as we go through that day. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to give an update. This past week, I was in Washington, D.C. As you know, I serve as the chair of Valley Metro, which controls 70% of the state's transportation. And I went to D.C. this week to advocate on more dollars to come into our state region for transportation, to provide connectivity, and to continue to increase our safety in our local region. So I was proud to attend that. I got a chance to meet with the senators and the Congress and the congressional delegates, which is all the delegates around the state of Arizona. So that was pretty cool, and we walked away with some great resolve from that as well. Next is Juneteenth. We got Juneteenth coming up. So excited as May come to a close. Culture Music in the Park is right around the corner, and we want to invite you guys to come on out downtown Chandler to have a good time and celebrate with some fun dancing and just some memorable time of just, you know, collaborating with everyone. It's really a good time, and I'm gonna tell you, we get the line dancing out there. Mayor, I hope you're gonna be there. You know, he got a little dance that he does. I won't embarrass him today. I'll see about later on, maybe in the next announcement. But it's really cool. We've been doing it for a while, so everyone is invited to the Culture and Music in the Park, something that I started and created right here in the city of Chandler. June 14th from 7 p.m. to 9:30 downtown. We'll have Miss Juneteenth Arizona Scholarship Pageant in June 13th and the Juneteenth Father's Day Mixer on the 15th. And you can find out all the details about these events at chandleraz.gov/Juneteenth. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hawkins.
Oh, wait a minute. I forgot one thing. I want to acknowledge my wife is in the audience. I love her. And we have a family member visiting from out of town, so I'm super excited about that. So just want to put it out there.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Thank you, Mayor. So I had the pleasure last Sunday, I had the opportunity to join Pastor James Brown and the Full Life Church for their 100 years of history and service right here in Chandler. It was really fun. They had a lot of guest speakers, some folks, some ladies there that have lived in Chandler since when they had their first location just down here in downtown. So it was really cool to see all that. I really appreciated that they invited the city to be a part of that. And it was just a really wonderful experience. And I was honored to be there. So I just wanted to share that fun little fact.
Thank you. City Manager.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Council, long meeting. This concludes our night.
This is nothing. Come on.